From deep in the heart of FEMA Region 6, Austin, Texas, transmitting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
I have definitely reached total information overload. I have never had more important news to cover and more of a jam-packed broadcast. Coming up at the next segment, we're going to kick off with Ted Nugent live via the phone, and then later in the broadcast, I'm going to air large excerpts of an hour-and-a-half, in-depth, amazing interview that we did a few weeks ago at his home in Central Texas, up by Waco. Just amazing. And it's so critical, the things he talks about in this period of time we're all living in. So Ted Nugent is going to be joining us to respond to the March to Disarm the American People and the whole AstroTurf situation funded by Soros, and the fact that it's blown up in their face. And Ted Nugent privately told me that that was what they expected to happen when I was just there a few weeks ago. And he talked about some of it publicly, but maybe he'll elaborate more on the whole kind of inside baseball of the NRA. Because here's the deal. The left doesn't listen to us anyways. They don't believe a word we say. They're such idiots. So Ted has been proven right. Trump's been proven right. That's coming up in the next segment. We're going to go over all of it. Now, talk about information overload. Here's the type of stories I've got. Arrest made in a Hollywood sex dungeon cult connected to the Clintons and more, and it ties into Aleister Crowley rituals, and it ties into U.S. senators and Vicente Fox's daughter. I mean, this just gets crazier and weirder. These people are so whacked out. I would never get sick of riding around on a souped-up golf cart with Labrador retrievers and shooting guns like Ted Nugent does. I mean, I never get sick of enchiladas and rock and roll and friends and family and, you know, hiking or being on the boat. I just don't get why Hollywood, like, who goes, let's go drink some blood and brand women in devil worship. And let's bathe in blood. I mean, it's just like, what's wrong with these people? They're scum. And they're mentally ill. And they're what we face. So that's coming up. Also, they caught this couple up in Boston with a bunch of weapons and hand grenades, saying they were government agents, and that they called the police on themselves. That looks like some type of false flag dry run right there, ladies and gentlemen, because this was going on during the gun-grabbing march in Boston. And, of course, you got the Boston Marathon coming up. We're going to look at that. We've got migrant baby boom causes highest birth rate in Germany in 40 years. And get ready for this. This is on Infowars.com. The official Swedish government has put out handbooks for Muslims to explain how to have sex with their children. Because I guess they're just saying we accept that you have child brides. Muhammad married a 9-year-old. And so you can actually read the manual being put out nationwide. Swedish government releases brochure for migrants legitimizing child marriage, despite vote in Parliament to stop recognizing child marriage. You just can't make this up. A DOJ charges FBI agent under Espionage Act for leaking to the media. Planned Parenthood said we need a Disney princess who's had an abortion. How about one that's been sexually mutilated by the Islamicist? Amazing. And we're going to get also into breaking FBI detains InfoWars contributor, former board member of the Davos Group, Ted Malek, interrogating him about Trump and everybody else. Just crazy, absolutely crazy. Looks like we're going to have the exclusive with Ted Malek popping in the second hour with Dr. Jerome Corsi. We're working out with his lawyers right now. This is a crazy time to be alive. And speaking of Russia, the really big news, Russia crisis hotter than the Cold War. And I agree with the Australian newspaper statement on that. And you've got Russian military chief lays out Kremlin's high-tech war plans. Russia readies for opening strike, warns they may strike NATO first. This is Reuters. Russia vows to respond with force. I mean, this is all deteriorating very quickly. Meanwhile, the real enemy within is the leftist. They're the ones trying to overthrow our rights and overthrow our Second Amendment and turn us into a bunch of neutered slaves. But it's not going to happen. Stay with us. Well, we've got a real treat for you here today. We're going to have an exclusive, in-depth interview at his house a few weeks ago with his lovely wife and just amazing dogs and all the hunting gear, you name it, with Ted Nugent. And it's a perfect shot of Americana adrenaline into the veins of this nation. Ted Nugent defined straight edge Americana, and he can be tracked back to being basically patient zero, going back 40-plus years, bringing the rebirth of the republic back. And I can tell you, without Ted Nugent in the fight, Trump wouldn't have been elected, and the globalist would have already basically taken this country down. And without Matt Drudge, or without Donald Trump, or without you. But just, it's important to single that out so a lot of you out there realize just how important and precious the patriots are that we have, that have paid a lot monetarily, their careers, you name it, being persecuted by Hollywood, the entertainment system, for not selling their nation out. But you know what? Our founders gave up even more than that. So I salute Ted Nugent. He's just popping in before we go to this big interview that we're going to exclusively air here today to give us the optics on what's currently happening. And when I was at his house 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I said, listen, people are really concerned about Trump saying, oh, I want to hear you out. What do you want? It's all on the table to get them to say we want to ban your guns. And he told me a little bit more off record, said some on the record. And I said, well, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to trust Trump because I know you're not a compromiser. And, well, it's been proven right. They got the Democrats to come out all over CNN, all over Fox News. They introduced legislation all over the country to ban all semi-autos. They've got the former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens saying repeal the Second Amendment. And this took the Republicans, who were 5, 10, 15 points, depending on the poll, behind with this big blue wave coming in, and re-energized people, woke them up that, yeah, we're in round 2 here. The war isn't over. It just started. Now we're in a fighting position here. So I got to tell you, the 4D chess is working. Ted Nugent, we salute you. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks, Alex, and God bless you and everybody that I know that are performing our original Founding Fathers' vision of we the people by raising hell and spotlighting cockroaches. And I never in my 70 years of clean and sober rhythm and blues rock and roll American dream have I seen more we the people patriots raising hell and spotlighting more cockroaches than ever before. And if I may, Alex, this needs to be emphasized now that Stevens has shown the true colors of the liberals and the Democrats. Now that this so-called Supreme Court, so-called justice, claims that the Second Amendment should be repealed, let it be known, and we should emphasize this all the time, that when we won the Supreme Court rulings in Washington, when the Supreme Court determined we do indeed have a God-given individual right guaranteed by the Constitution to keep and to bear arms, the dissenting paper signed by 4 of the 9 Supreme Court justices, I find it hard to even call them that because they don't qualify, they actually wrote a dissenting view, their opinion, their beliefs, Alex, that not only don't Americans have a right to keep and bear arms, but they actually used, Alex, the Supreme Court justices define the majority. They claim that Americans have no basic right, hang on, to self-defense. They actually wrote the words, no right to self-defense. And those punks weaseled their way onto something called the Supreme Court and are considered to be justices. If that doesn't scare the hell out of you, then I suppose you might want to get comfortably numb and have a party with, Michael Moore. So these are dangerous times, and now the spotlight has hit the biggest and ugliest cockroaches, and let it be known, the left, the Democrats, they are on record. They want to repeal the Second Amendment. If you're not a member of the National Rifle Association, you are on the side of people who want to repeal the Second Amendment. Case closed.
You're absolutely right. And the sickeningness of watching the Democrat dupes, only 9% or so were actually below the age of 18, basically a Department of Education march against our Second Amendment. These very same leftists have called for my site to be taken down, for you to be silenced. They played clips of you and me and Buddhists and all the rest of it. And then there they were with the National Guard and the police protecting them, good guys with guns. And then there's Michael Moore with his 6 bodyguards, because I've had him run into me before, just trying to interview him in New York. And there they are with this justice who to this day, even retired justices have up to 4 federal marshals that basically live with them. So these guys have armed guards They are protected with taxpayer money, but they want to deny us that right. Isn't that the ultimate form of discrimination?
Well, and let's really spotlight the other toxic cockroach in the room. You know, I know you, and again, my family, my friend. I'm in the recording studio with the greatest humans on earth, Greg Smith on bass guitar, Jason Hartless on drums, and Michael Lutz behind the controls. I got the greatest positive energy and happiest American dream rock and roll firestorm going on every day of my life, but I have to earn it. And how I earn it is by not just celebrating the positives and the beauty of hard work and the benefits of freedom, but to spotlight the cockroaches. And Alex, everybody I know, you and all my friends and family, we believe in law and order and the heroes of law enforcement. But the most heartbreaking cockroach in the spotlight now is the turncoats, the traitors in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. No wonder they don't feel guilty walking in buildings that say J. Edgar Hoover over the entranceway. Now, there are great heroes in law enforcement, but obviously, and it breaks my heart, the FBI is infested with traitors and liars and scammers and criminal punks who have turned on we the people. Do you know, Alex, that the FBI followed those two voodoo Allah monsters to Dallas to gun down innocent Americans at the Muhammad Allah voodoo cartoon contest? Thank God the Dallas police killed them dead. But the FBI followed those two terrorists to the event, Alex, watched it unfold, took photos. This is the FBI, Alex. This isn't the MS-13. This is the FBI documenting, watching, monitoring, following terrorists, shooting AK-47s at innocent Americans at a public event, and the FBI didn't intervene. They left, Alex. Thank God for the heroes of law enforcement, the Dallas Police Department, who shot the two subhuman devils dead. How beautiful was that?
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that came out months ago and almost got no coverage. In fact, pull up the article where FBI agents watched the Islamists fire their AK-47s into the building, and then were taken out in seconds, and then there was almost no coverage. Why did they do that? And then you learn the Justice Department has been protecting jihadis, like we saw in San Bernardino, and demoting FBI agents that try to do their jobs, and then putting weirdos like Reality Winner, that crazy ISIS-connected lady, inside the NSA, inside the CIA. They have put literal whack jobs throughout our government.
And Alex, I know you're attacked and I'm attacked for claiming these most outrageous, unbelievable claims and identifications of documented events. But the reason we're condemned for doing this is because what we are exposing, what we are documenting, is absolutely in the unbelievable column that the heroes of the Federal Bureau of Investigation would turn on the people of America. This is unbelievable, but it's happening. You see that the FBI, it's like Whitey Bulger. The FBI in Boston knew this guy was killing and maiming and torturing and raping and committing all these felonies pretty much every other day, and the FBI looked the other way. Alex, this is like in the movie, not The Patriot, but Braveheart, when Wallace was going to go kill the king, and the henchman came back with his lance, and it turned out to be Wallace's friend.
That's right. Stay right there. All right. One of the greatest living legends of rock and roll, and one of my favorite musicians, period, and of course the fire starter out there defending the Republic, Ted Nugent. And the reason I love Ted Nugent so much is I realize how evil the globalists are. They're minions, all these scumbags that lust after running our lives, that are threatened by red-blooded Americans, that are threatened by strong men and strong women, and who are threatened by independence. They want to capture that spirit. And if you go to one of these anti-gun marches, they look like drooling, mindless, pathetic, chicken-necked, vicious little zombies who always try to beat up our camera people and not let anybody have speech. So you just look at people at a Ted Nugent concert versus you go look at the folks at an anti-gun rally, you can see that they're a bunch of pathetic followers led by criminals. Now, coming up, we got the big interview in the third hour with Ted Nugent, inside his home, amazing behind-the-scenes stuff, the antidote to tyranny. But you were on fire during the break for 4 minutes talking about Rich Wyatt, talking about finishing up about, you know, the criminal elements inside government, how we got to deal with it. And, of course, the next shoe to drop, their next assault. So let's talk about it.
Well, you know, I'm like I said, Alex, God bless you and everybody out there that bust their ass to be in the asset column, working hard, playing hard Americans. These are my friends. These are real Americans who make sacrifices and take risks, and they are alive and well. We are alive and well. And thank God for you and a bunch of us out here. We're getting the truth and logic and common sense across in spite of the mainstream, you know, Himmler media propaganda ministry. But what I was wrapping up on our last segment is that it's really a heartbreaker, and it really does qualify as unbelievable, the level of criminality in the top of our government, at the top of the FBI, with the line of Comey and Clinton and Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder and the gun-running president, Fast and Furious Barack Obama, and the Lois Lerner weaponizing the IRS. I mean, these are horror stories that you'd think would be in a Jason Bourne movie in Nazi Germany, but bottom line is, we have got to continue to raise hell with our elected officials, make certain we're members of the NRA, and I'll bring a case in point. My good friend, a law enforcement hero, Rich Wyatt, who had a wonderful TV show called American Guns with his family out of Denver, Colorado, the ATF, a couple of rogue agents and the lunatic Friend came and tackled this guy. And remember, he's a cop all his life. He's on TV with his FFL and crossing his T's and dotting his I's. Rich Wyatt has been in jail for over a year because he was targeted as a pro-Second Amendment guy and didn't quite have the visible voice that guys like you and I do. So I want my friends out there in Colorado and beyond, start asking questions about why Rich Wyatt, a hero, a great law-abiding American, Rich Wyatt is in prison. And that's proof that this government, when it is out of control to the level where the FBI is turning on us and violating their oath to the Constitution, Alex, this is tragic. So what you're doing is spotlighting cockroaches. What I'm doing is spotlighting cockroaches. Sean Hannity does a great job. Tucker Carlson does a great job. Laura Ingraham does a great job. Rush Limbaugh does a great job. Everybody on our side, in various levels and various styles, we're spotlighting cockroaches. So if people listening are not members of the NRA, the left and the America haters, thank you. If you don't raise hell with your elected officials, Nancy Pelosi thinks you're on her side. So this is the real bottom line, is that we have got to raise hell with our elected employees and keep on them till we see some accountability. Until the day Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder and Hillary Clinton and Lois Lerner and Barack Obama are in jail, there is no justice in America.
You're right. And just remembering the whole Rich Wyatt case, these were ATF guys he went shooting with. He knew it was just a bizarre leftist targeting.
Yes.
Because he was popular. He was on the news. They're targeting us all. And let's not forget, over 10,000 Christian charities, churches, harassed, people arrested. And it came out in the documents that they were targeting them, knowing they hadn't done anything wrong. And then no one even got in trouble. That is Nazi Germany or Soviet Union level. So, of course, the Democrats want to ban our speech. Of course, they want to set us up and put us in prison. They ship guns to Mexico, we now know from CBS News, to blame the Second Amendment. So they are criminals. There is no length they won't go. And I want to go back to this just briefly in the time we have. And your big interview's coming up. We appreciate your time, Uncle Ted. And you could get back in the studio with this killer record I hear is coming out. But looking at this and talking to you and saying, listen, the tactic is, say we want to hear what they want, so they come out and tell us they want to ban everything, because we know that's their real plan. And then you said, just watch, Trump knows what he's doing. And it's happened. It got them to come out and admit the truth, and completely blew up in their face. And I just can't believe how stupid they are. But can you give people any more little inside baseball about some of the conversations, the NRA, or some of the conversations with these congressmen and folks?
Well, first of all, mean, I hate even saying the words "never show your hand," but I just did. That doesn't mean I'm showing my hand, but there is strategy. There is improvise, adapt, and overcome in the world of the outrageous, freedom-hating, Constitution-crushing, liberal left Democrat assault on what used to be America. And Donald Trump is a clever guy. I believe 100% in my heart and soul that he is maneuvering. That's why he continues to change his administration, because it's difficult to find honest people. It's difficult to find people that will stay on his campaign agenda. And I see a lot of people squawking that he's backing off, and the omnibus bill, the budget is an absolute cluster whack. But believe me, he's fighting at the pace at least equal to the incrementalism that we lost these rights, that we wasted our tax dollars, that we pay our enemies, that we pay a Planned Parenthood scam, that we pay the propaganda.
Well, exactly. He's already reversed so much, it's a godsend. But expanding on that, it's almost like police hostage negotiators when they say to the guy that's got the woman, you say, what is it you want? We'll give you anything you want. We're not going to give them what they want. We're wanting them to go, we want to take your rights and enslave you. We're total criminal scum. George Soros, we love him. And they did it. He said, what do you want? And they said, we want everything.
Listen to the words from all the leftists, all the gun grabbers, all the Second Amendment haters that they want. Quote, these are talking points from hell. Himmler could have done a better job than this. We're all looking, we all agree, most of America wants common sense gun safety regulations. That has nothing to do with their agenda. I own hundreds of guns, and they're all perfectly safe. Most of them which the Supreme Court numbnut Stevens and Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Fast and Furious Holder and Lynch, they would take my guns in a heartbeat if they could. In fact, Dianne Feinstein is on record more than once saying we would take them all tonight if we could. That's not ambiguous. When they say Australian-style gun laws, that means coming to your door and taking your guns. And when they call them assault weapons, that means your semi-automatic Benelli Goose gun.
Unbelievable. I'm going to make him hold one more segment, just finish up with 2 minutes on the other side, because we have the 21st century version of Paul Revere right here on air with us right now. TedNugent.com. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com. I got to tell you, I have been around a lot of professional guitar players and seen them play in person. And fellow conservative and patriot and Christian, of course, one of the guys that helped found Metallica, and then, of course, Megadeth, Dave Mustaine. And that's kind of almost a classical style when they're playing that fast. But with Ted Nugent, the grinding, grungy blues power of it in person was just, it wasn't even real. And in fact, we had nice microphones. They're just regular microphones with the cameras. It's still amazing when the interview comes up. Some of the songs he plays, Star Spangled Banner, Stranglehold, some of the new stuff he's doing. But to hear it in person, because he had the amp turned up, but you know, usually when the amp's cranked up, you don't like blasting sound. At least I don't, but I did. I wanted more of it. But the labs, though, they when they see Daddy start going for the guitar, they start backing away, though. Can you imagine the dog ears? So there's footage of all that. His dogs are awesome. I love dogs. And it's a great interview. But just how American and down to earth and unpretentious patriots are, whether they're from Michigan or Texas or Northern California or upstate New York or Florida or West Virginia or Tennessee or Illinois. They're just good, real people. And then you get around globalists and liberals and minions, and they're like lobotomized fruitcakes at the bottom, and at the top, it's a bunch of criminals. Let me tell you, the average leftist, it's about power. And when Ted Nugent got into the fact that he's not against the police, he's against a police state. Like North Korea is a police state. Communist China is a police state. Collapsed Venezuela is another wondrous communist utopia that Bernie Sanders would give us. And when the IRS is persecuting gun shops and gun owners, and when the government's shipping guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment, and when they're trying to put Ted Nugent in prison constantly for illegally hunting, these leftist game wardens and people, we know that 80% of the cops and people are good. But in these leftist areas, They let people beat women in the head with bike locks at Berkeley, and the police sit there and smile while a professor walks up and clubs some woman in the head, and a crowd, like out of a nightmare movie, like a bunch of vampires, grabs a woman and sucks her into a crowd and then breaks 4 of her bones. And the way Antifa here and in the UK will walk right up to women, and men will just start beating women up. And the left goes, yeah! Just like they're allied with radical Islam and the genital mutilation. Excuse me, I'm ranting. Uncle Ted, I want you to get back in the studio. Just putting a bookend on that, the new record, other tidbits. I mean, I'm confident as long as we get out and speak, we're going to keep the House. Trump's starting to move against Bezos and the globalists. A lot of exciting things happening, and we are an instant gratification country, but I agree with you. We need to be thanking our lucky stars that the American people put Trump over the top, and now we've got a fighting chance.
Well, I'm in the studio making, I don't know, it was my 40th or 50th record. I started recording back in 1960 with my Detroit band, but I'm having the time of my life. But I'm more than happy to put the guitar down and earn my American dream by performing my We the People responsibilities to raise hell and demand constitutional accountability from my elected employees. That's all that Americans really are duty-bound to perform. And so I beg and beseech, implore and prod and cajole and pound if I have to, my fellow Americans who think if they just nod when they hear truth and logic and common sense like this, that's not enough. You have to be a member of the NRA. You have to vote. If we let Democrats who have made it clear and unambiguous that they want to repeal the Second Amendment, they'll tell you they don't, but they want to repeal the Second Amendment. They want to force Americans into unarmed helplessness. So if you don't help defeat Democrats, if you don't get Republicans in there and then hold their feet to the fire with constant constitutional pressure, then you are the enemy of America. Apathy is worse than liberalism. Apathy is worse than a Democrat. Apathy is what ushered in the Barack Obamas and the criminality of Lois Lerner and gun-running Eric Holder, et cetera, et cetera. So God bless America. God bless the real heroes of law enforcement and the sacrifices of our military warriors. If we don't pay them back by performing our We the People participation in this experiment in self-government, shame on us. Nancy Pelosi dreams that conservatives and gun owners don't vote. Do not give Nancy Pelosi her dream. Vote and vote out the Second Amendment repealing Democrats, and make sure you and all your friends and buddies are members of the National Rifle Association, and America will be back on track the way we want it to be.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for having me in your home and your wife and all the great work you do. And we're going to get the full interview posted on Infowars.com the next hour. We're going to air large excerpts of it today and tomorrow. Just amazing being there in your home and just seeing that pure Americana. God bless you, Uncle Ted.
Well, thank you. And I'll get you some copies of the new song, Cocked, Locked, and Ready to Rock the Glock Doc. And it'll be the ultimate bumper music for you.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Godspeed.
All right, there he goes. And when I feel the spirit of the globalist, how weak and sinister and evil it is, and then the spirit of Ted Nugent in person. So I'd met him before, and he'd been on the show for 16 and 17 years. He's been coming on. But when I was going out to local radio stations, he would like call the station, find the hotline number, and call to get on the show too. So he's a listener, and so is his wife. But when I think about people like them and how genuine and strong they are and how honorable they are, and then I look at the Democrats and the globalists, and they're just a bunch of dumb followers, a bunch of dumb, helpless sheep, and then evil people controlling them. Coming up in the next segment, I'm going to actually frame this because my son at 15, out of the gates, has his video and his news story on the #1 website in the world, drudgereport.com. So that's coming up in the next segment. My son had the idea yesterday. No, it was the night before. He shot it yesterday. And he said, Dad, after school, I want to come into the office can I take an Uber at 3 and I want to challenge David Hogg to a debate? And I said, sure. Well, he came in, he shot it, and it's powerful. Alex Jones' son challenges David Hogg to a debate. It's up on drudgereport.com, the lower right-hand corner. And I think that Drudge link to me means more than any of the others I've had over the years. That's great. I don't know, the spirit cooking one 3 days before the election, which the globalists think was one of the key things that sent over the top. That's pretty important. Speaking of spirit cooking, I'm going to cover this as well. There is that NXIVM group that reportedly brands the women and starves them and sex slaves them and is into the occult. They have dungeons, and that's what 50 Shades of Grey and stuff's like a feeder into these things. And then there's cults deeper than that. That's just mid-level. Of course, Hillary Clinton's connected to it, and all these top senators and Democrats are. And then they're trying to deny they were part of the sex cult, though. But then the very Democrats that are listed here, the senators and people, they're in the article on Infowars.com, they are tweeting out the image of the Aleister Crowley High Priestess. Isn't that interesting? The spirit cooking and Marina Abramovich. And you look at that woman, the narcissism, the look of arrogance, that she's so powerful and she can make you live longer. And she's like a vampire, they say, so she looks pretty. Oh, give me a break. I've seen videos of her 10 years ago, looks like a hag. But the point is that her soul's ugly. And so, oh, they're all sharing pictures of her, but they're not part of any sex cults or anything. They're just the Podesta emails where they say, you come to the ritual, we got the blood and semen. I mean, it's all what's going on. So that's why I get so angry at these people, folks, because they are the scum of the earth. And, of course, their religion is shriveling women. Welcome back. You know, I just heard that National Rifle Association ad airing on the radio side, TV side. We had a video ad going with Dana Lash. I always call her Loesch. I'm teleprompter free. Dana Lash. Great, smart, syndicated radio host, great lady, very successful spokesperson for the NRA that the left wants to basically kill and says is a witch and burn her, literally. They heard that ad running, and Media Matters wrote stories about it, George Soros' outfit, saying, oh, look, the National Rifle Association is spending money with Alex Jones like they're the arbiter, they're the boss, they're the god, and, ooh, if they say it's bad, it's bad. No, morons. I like that ad. So I have part of the radio ads on the network, so I run that ad. Even though one of those ads is about $1,000 a minute, I run it and eat $1,000 every time. Comprende? I pay to air the NRA. Figure that out? So you guys don't get it, do you? I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for myself. I don't sit there and calculate the work I do about me personally. It's about my children and the future. I'm a kamikaze. I don't care what you do to me financially. I don't care how you come after me. I'm committed because I know you're bad people and I want to get you off of our collective backs. Isn't that something you can now understand, dumbos? Now, it is true that the NRA advertises on my YouTube channel, and it's not even that much money, and they're always trying to get rid of our sponsors. You people are pathetic. You know now, though, that it drove up the prices to be on my channel, and now actually a lot more money is coming in. It's just crazy. YouTube couldn't even control themselves because the channel is just such a premium now that they can upsell everybody, and just the ads are just pouring in. Ridiculous. So let me tell you, see your story right, Media Matters. They're not paying to be on the radio. They're paying to be on the internet, video side of it, and they love the results they're getting. So stick that in your pipe. I know you guys are like the referee and the arbiters, and you're the adults and we're the children, and you tell us what words to use and how to act and what to do. It doesn't work like that, okay? Now, we had bodies, whole body support in for 2 weeks, And the initial sale run sold out, even though I thought it would be a 3-month supply, because people are into turmeric and they're into the amazing benefits and everything that they know it does. And they know that we have a 95% curcumin level, 450 milligrams per powdered capsule, and that is at the very top of the industry at a price way lower than competitors. The average has a curcumin level of 3. Ours is concentrated, organic, and fresh. It is 95% rated curcumin. Yeah. See, everybody else does 5 to 7 time markup. We don't do that. We actually put it into the product so that we have the ultimate turmeric formula. Anti-inflammatory support, flexibility support, joint support, and so much more. And it's not just the turmeric. It's got a bunch of other key things that go with it that make it, we believe, the ultimate formula. And we know at the very top 1% of what is already the rage for many years because of the studies and the facts. Bodies is back 25% off, despite the fact that this was a smaller run because we could not even secure enough to do a bigger run and have it all be organic certified, so we're having to wait. So despite the fact that this will definitely sell out probably in 4 or 5 days, read all the 5-star reviews, InfoWarsLife.com, and you can get your bodies today. Now, another sale that's going to have to end is 50% off Brain Force Plus and 50% off the Real Red Pill that go together. You get free shipping when you get them together or get them by themselves, 50% off. But 50% off on both together and free shipping, or individually 50% off. The Real Red Pill, the 7-day challenge, it takes about a week for me to see it kick in. But the Brain Force, 30 minutes. But it's amazing. Go read about it today. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. And please support our local affiliates as well. I want to thank you all for your support. Everything you're doing is critical. Now, my son, he had the idea 2 nights ago. He said, I want to challenge David Hogg to a debate because he challenged you, Dad, and flaked out. Maybe he'll debate me. And he talked about how he has ridiculous talking points like the Pope saying that there is no hell. He might, like I said, it's like, might as well have Satan as the Pope. I expect the Pope to say next, worship Lucifer. He is God. Yeah, but side issue. Just unbelievable. Alex Jones' son challenges David Hogg to a gun debate. It's a very powerful video. And I'm just proud of him. So this is my son's work. Here it is.
Hello, Mr. Hogg. My name is Rex Jones, and I want to make a public statement about you claiming to speak for my generation about guns.
If you listen real close, you can hear the people in power shaking. They've gotten used to being protective of their position, chewing the safety of inaction. Inaction is no longer safe, and to that we say, no more.
Hogg, you claim that the establishment is shaking in its boots in fear of you. No, they love you. They love gun control. They've wanted this for years.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
Here's the legislation that you supported in Georgia, the last assault weapons ban Democrats in your state pushed, and I'm quoting from the legislation right here. The Georgia Bureau of Investigations shall seize and take possession of any assault weapon, large capacity magazine, armor-piercer bullet, or incendiary 50 caliber bullet. Shall seize and take possession of.
It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
You've heard people say, you'll have to pry my gun from my cold dead hands. Okay.
It is admitted that they want to disarm the American people, just as they have done with so many corrupt regimes in the past. Hitler, Stalin, Mao, North Korea. Do you think those corrupt leaders allowed their citizens to have guns? Do you think that the Jews were able to protect themselves when Hitler put them in concentration camps? No, they were disarmed, and that's why they were enslaved. Hogg, you're a public figure, and you call my dad a piece of SHI you-know-what, and you say all kinds of other horrible things. You've challenged him to a debate and then backed out of it. The fact is, you and your fellow students have been handpicked by the mainstream media to misrepresent the American people and make it look like the average young American teen wants to have their First and Second Amendment taken away. Many people in your name, such as CNN, have called for my father to be banned off YouTube and claim that it's bullying to say that it's authoritarianism to repeal the Second Amendment. Mainstream media uses you as a child human shield so that you can go out and make outrageous statements without anyone being allowed to rebut you without being labeled a bully. The truth is, Mr. Hogg, that George Soros and the groups funding your anti-gun march are a clear and present danger to this country and draw clear parallels to Nazi Germany and the authoritarian regimes of the past. Well, David Hogg, here we are. We're at the Peace Officers Memorial in downtown Austin. These brave men and women took an oath to uphold the Constitution. The sheriff in your state did too, but he didn't protect y'all. He stayed outside while the massacre happened. And you like to blame that on guns? I say we shouldn't blame that on guns. We should blame that on the sheriff that failed to act. But no, you make apologies for him. You said that going down a barrel of an AR-15 is dangerous, and you understood why he was scared. Going down the barrel of an AR-15 is that man's job. And for you to make apologies for him is absolutely disgusting. The veterans who died in the Revolutionary War and in the War of 1812, they died to protect this country from the British. They died to protect their civil rights in World War II and World War I. American soldiers went across the globe to protect our freedoms. You say that those freedoms are obsolete, that no one needs a weapon of war. Were you taught in school, David Hogg, about how our country was founded? Were you taught in school that at Lexington and Concord, the British came for our firearms and our weapons, and we said no, and we defended our country with all of our might and strength? And that's how we became the most free, the most prosperous, and the most successful nation on earth to the date? Do you know how that happened? Brave men and women, like the men and women behind me, stood up and they said, no, we will not submit to tyranny. And that is what you were doing. You were submitting to tyranny. You were begging to have the rights that our forefathers fought for stripped away. You say, yes, please take my rights. I say, no, you're not going to take my rights. Well, I'm 15 years old, Mr. Hogg, and I don't need talking points or a little teleprompter behind my CNN interview screen to get my point across. I'm backed up by statistics and facts. You are backed up by falsities and lies. Mr. Hogg, my dad publicly invited you to come on.
We'll be back. You know, I told the story about how I took my daughters and 5 of their friends, 2 carloads, down to San Antonio from Austin last weekend to go to Six Flags. And my daughters go to private school, but 3 of the other girls go to public school. And I'm just saying these are public school girls. And they were ages 15 to 13. And I thought Ted Nugent was riding with me in the car. My wife went down with the baby in her car with my younger daughter. And I drove with my older daughter and her 5 friends. And these weren't talking points. These girls, it was like an hour and a half of my own radio show. And they knew who I was from memes and stuff, but this was all from their dads and their moms. And I was just thinking, man, imagine if they went and had rallies and spoke. I mean, they were smart, just empowered. They were talking about feminism and how the government wants to take control of women and break up families so that they can control and dictate reproduction. And they just knew everything. And I was very pleased to learn they weren't getting it from my show. Soros and the left are going to lose, folks. People want freedom. They know Venezuela, North Korea, everywhere hell. They know every leftist city is a bunch of rich, tax-exempt people. They know the Democrats have 3 times the money the Republicans do in national studies. But they want to play class warfare and envy. They are the greedy rich people that don't want you to be wealthy. Donald Trump does. We're going to go to break, come back with Dr. Corsi with just staggering news. And I say that because I go, this is incredible, that's incredible. It is all incredible. And they're far from breaking my will and my spirit. I feel stronger than ever, but I have reached a point where I was getting ready this morning at like 7 a.m. reading news, and I I got a huge headache because I can't come up with words strong enough to describe how bad the globalists are. I mean, there's just stacks of news of them devil worshiping and torturing women in dungeons and, you know, the Clintons and all this. I mean, and I know, and then one side of me, the reason I get exhausted is I go, man, you're really up against devil worshipers. You ought to, aren't you scared? That's kind of like your conscience talks to you, your brain war games things. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm scared of them winning. And then they're like, oh, we're not with this guy that brands the women and got arrested and has them in dungeons and all this, that is buddies with the Clintons. Oh, and then you go look at the people's accounts, and they're all like tweeting the spirit cooking lady and how much they love her. And it's just so creepy, man. I mean, oh, these people want to run our lives. They've all got armed bodyguards, and they don't want us to have guns. I mean, I hate these people. I really do. And it's because I love my children so much that it's revolting. I liken it to, have you ever had to dig a dead animal out of your air conditioning vents in your house, your central heating and cooling? I've done it. I have fished a dead raccoon out. Back when I just got my first house and didn't have money to have people come tear it all out and do it, I went in and did it. And we've been on vacation, so it had worms all over it, you know, but I got that sucker out of there. And I threw up a couple times. My dad one time had a dead possum. He had the same nightmare at his house. And I asked him, he has money, had money back then. I said, why'd you do it? Oh, I just did it. He's from the country. But that's what I like at Hillary and Abramovich. All these people are like rotting dead possums. But I can't just get them out of the vent and then throw up, you know, get them in the trash and vomit and forget about it. That's Hollywood is like a giant. When I see Hollywood red carpets, I see, or Jim Carrey, I like see rotting dead possums. I'm serious. It's like I get nauseous because I know what they are. They're just fried, screwed up, evil little people who are into themselves and can't stand the fact that we're straight-backed, straight-necked, strong, virile, God-fearing. They see us, and it reminds them of what trash they are, what disgusting filth they are. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me just recap some of the top stories that I haven't gotten into, but I've mentioned. I had Tommy Robinson coming on today about some incredible attacks on free speech in the UK and all the Islamist stuff going on. He's still going to be joining us, but it's becoming staggering. They're now EU-wide saying that child sex with Muslims is okay because it's their culture. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is so crazy, I'm having trouble believing it. This was officially put out by the Swedish government. It's on Infowars.com. It's translated out of Swedish, and it shows men with little girls. I mean, it's next level. And they have children's shows on German PBS, on their public television, teaching 14-year-olds to have a 25-year-old Islamic husband. I mean, I just said that, and it sounds like a lie, and it's true. I mean, you know what I mean? That's so crazy, I can't even believe it anymore. So let's stop right there. That's coming up. And it just gets more insane. These people are insane. And the devil worshiping, an arrest made, and women in cages, and starving them, and branding them, and Vicente Fox's daughter connected to it, and U.S. senators connected, and then they try to say, oh, we're not connected, but then their Twitter account, they're tweeting out Aleister Crowley's high priestess, spirit cooking. I mean, it's just like, really? Really, devil worship? Slaves must immediately answer their masters anytime they text or call them, and if they do not recruit enough slaves of their own, they are beaten with a paddle. And that's just the entrance of the cult. And then the women must be at starvation level. Oh, just get whatever her name is off the screen. I can't look at her. Now, last night, yesterday afternoon, Dr. Corsi calls me and he says, Ted Malloch, former board member of the Davos Group, head of the Aspen Institute, you know, a patriot mole inside the globalist, best-selling author, professor, was flying in from London where he lives. He's an Anglophile. He's an American, but he lives in England. And they grab him up. They read him his rights. They want to know all about Roger Stone, Corsi, our operation. And then They take his phone. We're going to go over it all right now with Dr. Jerome Corsi, because this is a big, 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 big deal. That this is how big the dragnet is that I guess because he talked about talking to an MI6 agent that told him that the WikiLeaks had gotten the stuff downloaded, which we now know from William Binney, formerly the director of the NSA Technical, and that it wasn't hacked from a distance. So they want to know all about this. And it just shows how huge the dragnet is. My security team, just the other day, documented, and the feds wanted me to know, because the feds have got cars with little numbers on the front fender. Feds out here following me, I don't know what for. If people think that's going to intimidate me, you guys haven't figured out I can't be intimidated, because I'm committed until death to fight this, because I know we're dealing with a bunch of pedophile devil worshippers. So it's not hard to say I'm committed 100%. Because I'm actually panicking like a drowning man, you understand? Getting away from them. That's what this is. This whole show is that. Fight or flight, I'm fighting. This is my panic, completely freaked out fight against a bunch of devil worshippers. You got to figure it out. I only know one direction, that's forward. And I am scared. I'm scared I'm not going to fight you hard enough. You got me scared. Don't you worry. So, you got me scared. Oh, believe me. And we got our hands around your neck politically now, and you're going to find out just how scared we are. And that scared strength's going to pop the political eyeballs out of your head. Just like you see a little boy, Bezos, 30-plus billion lost in a day. That's a guy that won't even pay for his sick employees. The Washington Post treats him like total crap and is a monster. And you think he likes losing $30 billion in one day? $5 billion himself? You think that little monster likes that? And he'll lose a lot more than that real soon. You think this is a one-way street? Buster, it's not. This is real. So get ready. And the news is like, oh, Trump's obsessed with it, that it's killing Main Street, and that it's anti-American, and that he thinks the Washington Post is weaponized. Thinks it's weaponized? They publicly hired over 300 former CIA operatives from Information Warfare Division under Obama to run the Washington Post now. It's a giant CIA breakaway criminal network. Yeah, I'm glad the president's obsessed with it. They're lucky they're just getting their asses handed to them financially. All right, I'm sorry. Let's go to Dr. Corsi. So, author of Killing the Deep State, The Fight to Save President Trump. Doc, this is such next level. And you said it best last night in that emergency broadcast we did. But Malik finally, they took his phones and stuff. He's trying to talk to lawyers, but you talked to him this morning. He doesn't want to come on yet, but just describe what he told you they did.
Well, it's going to be more and more incredible. I mean, Ted Malik is okay. He's in Ohio. He's with his wife. The FBI and the Mueller team are continuing to talk to him. They're calling him up. Now we know a couple things. One is they went to a judge. Oh,
this is breaking exclusive right now.
Yes, it's all break. They went to a judge in Mueller went to a judge in Massachusetts to get the subpoena for Ted to appear before the grand jury on the Russian collusion case. They went to somebody in Massachusetts. I guess they couldn't find a liberal enough judge in Washington. Then they want to keep Ted's cell phone. It's his only cell phone. He's out using his wife's cell phone, which is in London. It doesn't really work that well here, calling to London to have it bounce back here. They won't give him his cell phone back. They say they want to scrutinize it, and they're going to hold Ted. And he's going to come back on April 13th. They postponed the grand jury appearance to give them more time to break down every little square inch of Ted's cell phone. Now, I mean, this is, to me, outrageous. Here, Ted Malik is stopped at the airport. He's detained. He's brought into some detention room with the FBI and grilled. He's told he's going to be forced to go to the grand jury. They confiscate his cell phone. Then he goes off to Ohio, no cell phone. I mean, Ted Malik would have come in voluntarily. All the FBI had to do was ask. And Ted would have been happy to come. Sure, they did
this to shake him up and then later try to say he lied about something to try to flip him to then lie about Roger Stone.
That's right. And they read him his rights. And they just decided, they told him, reminded him that anything he said was going to be used against him in terms of lying to the FBI. He had no lawyer. He went in and talked with them without a lawyer. Now he's getting a lawyer today to try to assist him through this. But this is like a bad, Edward G. Robinson 1930 movie. I mean, I'm tweeting out and pounding Mueller. I mean, Mueller is the one who next gets to be. He needs to be under investigation along with Rosenstein for their role in covering up this uranium-1 bribery scheme by Russia, which I don't think CFIUS, the Committee on Foreign Investment of the United States, would have allowed Hillary's deal to go through with Russia buying uranium-1 if Mueller and Rosenstein had let that information be made available to the committee. I'm asking Mueller, how much did he get paid? What's his net worth? How much did Hillary pay her the $147 million that she got? We know.
Well, that's what's crazy is we got him on tarmacs, $147 million, $30 million to the Podesta brother, all this Russia connection, selling the country out, and then they've been doing a proctology exam on everybody associated with Trump, have found nothing. They admit that, and now they're moving on to process crimes. This is just insane. And then Trey Gowdy tries to score points, with the establishment and goes, and I like Trey Gowdy in many ways, but he's like, Jim Jordan, everybody, you need to knock it off. And by the way, stop acting like you're guilty, Trump. When they've expanded the investigation into how long his toenails are and nothing's been found, and Hillary is literally in league selling out 1/3 of our strategic uranium in frickin' tarmac meetings out of a James Bond movie, this is ridiculous. Fine, keep investigating Trump. Investigate me, but indict Hillary and the Podestas and all these other jerks and Mueller. You can't have Mueller in tarmac meetings for the Clintons with the Russians and then turn around and tell us we're involved with them when we're not.
Yes, I just found out today, too, the New York Times, this second week in a row, my book is outsold about half of the bestseller list, but they're not putting the book on the bestseller list. They've got they hate the book. They hate killing the deep state. It's going to be, we're going to be offering it through InfoWars
for
next
now,
week.
at least 10 years, the New York Times and all of them don't let anything patriotic make the New York Times bestseller list.
Absolutely not. They block it, they censor it, and they deny you revenue by that because the bookstores use that list for placement.
By the way, but they're making the list worthless, so we'll stay there. By the way, Roseanne Barr just had the president call her, congratulate her on the #1 show in the last 2 or 3 years with all the declining ratings. 18 million viewers in the key demographic. The other hit shows have like 5-6 million now. The people are sick of Hollywood and they're leftist garbage. It's just a balanced show that shows some libertarian and nationalist views. And Roseanne, by the way, is a listener. I can tell you to a certain extent, she said it. Well, I helped partially get her from being a mainline leftist to a free thinker. She's been on years ago. She said she'd come on. I was talking to her yesterday via Twitter, and I know she's getting slammed, but she's hotter than a firecracker, hotter than white hot metal right now, and we would love to get her on the broadcast. So that's how ridiculous I am, too. Like, I even had her number, and I don't think I put it in the computer right, so I'm going to ask her for a number right now. The point is, I want to get her on because I don't normally care about Hollywood. I don't want to be, but getting Mavericks on and her standing up to the bullying and all of it and then getting top ratings, again, that's what people want. And they're tired of being lectured to constantly. Now, the globalists are panicking, obviously, and Dr. Jerome Corsi is here with us. So this is a big deal because getting into all the backstory, Ted Malloch's an academic. He's a very trusted guy. Classically at Bilderberg or at Davos or the CFR, they get a trusted academic to be kind of the custodian or the secretary of the thing. So there he is on the board of directors at Davos for decades, helped make it big, founder of Aspen Institute, but with an Americana view there the whole time. And I remember even covering Ted Malloch 20 years ago and going, here's one of the traitors, Ted Malloch, before I understood how it all worked. And then I realized a few years later he was actually fighting globalism from within it. But he has nothing to do with the Trump administration and nothing to do with any of this. And he's been grabbed by the FBI. That shows you the dragnet is gigantic. It's threatening. And because he's not a coward and would tell people, we know about it. They have talked to almost everyone that's bought properties from Trump, including just single condos. His golf members in New Jersey, in New York, in Florida. This is true harassment. And it's next level. And you know what? The president isn't backing down, is he? He just smashed Amazon by pointing out that they're running a major scam with their inside tax deals and things, and that brought their stock down massively, 30+ billion. So the globalists better get it, Dr. Corsi, that all of their harassing us, all of them persecuting us, is not making us put our tail between our legs. It's making us dig in and intensify letting loose the dogs of war.
Well, that's exactly right, Alex. And one of the key points today when Ted Malloch talked to me, and he is okay, he's here for Easter, he's going to stay through Easter. But the point is, Ted said that the Mueller's staff were upset that we went public with that the grand jury had called him. Yeah, it was supposed to be kept secret squirrel. Nobody was supposed to know that because Mueller wants to do all of this, in a camera secret proceeding. I mean, this is disgraceful. This is like a cheap 1930 movie. I mean, if Mueller wants to behave like this, I'm telling him, let's go out in the backyard and duke it out. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm tired of seeing the FBI dragged to this level of embarrassment by a hack like Mueller and Rosenstein. Both of them ought to be indicted and under grand jury subpoena themselves for their role in the cover-up of the Iranian Russian bribery scheme. They helped Hillary make $147 million, and now that's being covered up. So Ted Malloch saying, well, they said we shouldn't mention anything. I said, Ted, forget it. We're going to blast them. I want to blast them. I want to call them out. Mueller wants to grab Ted's cell phone and look at his cell phone. He would have taken his laptops. The FBI and CIA and all these people won't tell you when they're giving it back. They're going to scrutinize it down to the last bit of data, and then they'll bring Ted in. And if he lies about anything or makes a mistake, they'll indict him. He's going to be in the grand jury. They can't have any lawyer at the grand jury. And they're going to testify him for, 2-3 days about every little detail of everything he's done back to grade school. I think it's disgusting.
I've never heard you, because you've been a fan over all the FBI, I've never heard you this angry, but you're absolutely right. And they say that we're trying to pull down the FBI. No, letting the Clinton crime network operate and having Loretta Lynch in illegal tarmac meetings and having Mueller, when he's not even director, delivering uranium. And so they've changed the subject over to us, the Liberty Movement, saying we, the patriots that want to make America great again, are Ruski agents. That's like Maxine Waters says. The swamp came from Putin. Drain the swamp. Lock her up came from Putin. The idea that Trump can't come up with ideas, that anybody could tell me what to do. You can't stop me from interrupting people or shutting up. This is ridiculous crap.
Yeah, and then the same day, I find out my book, Killing the Deep State, for 2 weeks in a row is not going to be on the New York Times bestseller list. That affects placement in bookstores. Why? It outsold half of the books, but this leftist group at the New York Times, another bunch of communists that ought to go the same way as Bezos and the Washington Post, the whole bunch of them, basically criminal, bending the algorithm.
Are you kidding? We have the head guy at the New York Times over all their digital operations saying we're interfaced with YouTube and we censor Alex Jones. The New York Times, CNN, they've all got their fingers like in a pie and they don't even hide it. Brian Stelter, Anderson Cooper goes, we're in Alex Jones's account. We're going to get him banned. We can see what he's doing. I've talked to the lawyers. That is illegal, man. It is just crazy to have Anderson Cooper and Brian Stelter in my private account.
Yeah, and the same day, again, now YouTube just demonetized one of my QAnon decodes. So, it's all starting again. Now they want to, the deep state is desperate. And Mueller is pathetic. Mueller, has had a
what do they got on him?
What
do they have on this guy?
On Ted Malloch?
No, on Mueller. We know he took money from the Russians. We know. So just why not have a federal grand jury impaneled and indict his ass? We got him.
Precisely, and he was also the cover-up artist of the HSBC case where Comey was on the board.
And he did all that Richard Jewell fake anthrax stuff. And the fourth patsy they just went ahead and whacked.
So, Mueller is the one who ought to be investigated, and Rosenstein. The two of them ought to be drugged up before a grand jury themselves and put under criminal investigation. And that was the whole point with Joe DiGenova. Joe DiGenova and his wife, Victoria Townsend, had the witness, this William Campbell, who knows all about Mueller and Rosenstein's suppression of the Russian bribery scheme. It had to be suppressed. And by the way,
Congress has already heard secret testimony. It's come out. Mueller and all of them killed the investigation of the bribery to get our uranium, and then Hillary got the deal for letting it happen. And you know, just like McCabe got a $500,000 for his cover-up, I wonder what Mueller got. You know Mueller got money. Hell, he's been put on all these Russian boards. That right there is the money. Indict his ass.
Ted Malloch's a friend, and I've known Ted and helped to publish his memoirs. If Mueller wants to deal with Ted Malloch, just scaring him, detaining him from the airport, Ted would have talked to him. I'm fed up with this. I want to say to Mueller, let's go out in the backyard of the Justice Department. You got to have let's duke it out. You want to behave like a thug? You want to behave like that? Well, this is what you deserve. Let's duke it out. You're finished. You're a hack. The whole investigation is a criminal setup.
It is. Thank you, Dr. Corsi. We'll talk to you again coming up on the War Room today. If you can pop in. Thank you. I know you're getting over a cold, but God bless. Powerful information. All right. You know, we should be carrying his book. He is our reporter. I haven't even made a deal to carry his book at InfoWarsStore.com. We'll be right back. Make no mistake, the Republic is at war with the globalist deep state. They are the breakaway group inside our government. You know, they have scientifically proven that birds, mammals, you name it, are psychic. And they're learning it's actually science that we have electrochemical parts of our brains that are magnetic and that interface with the magnetic field of the planet, that interface with the solar winds, but also like when you're walking through the woods and you know somebody's looking at you, and then you turn around and there they are. That's been proven. You can look up the studies. And I got to act on this when this happens, because I woke up at 3:30 in the morning and I was worried about my dad having a heart attack. I never think about that. And then at 7 in the morning, my personal trainer was supposed to come over, and he called me. He said, listen, my dad had a heart attack in the middle of the night, and I'm friends with his dad. He's a nice guy. And so I can't come work out with you. I said, well, obviously. And I'm just saying that's the weird way my brain works. And it's not a coincidence. It's just those weird things that happen. And more I do tell people stuff, and then they see it. But that's how psychic stuff works, though. It's not 100%. You can't, like, dead on know exactly what it is. You just know. And it's the same thing with Russia. I also was like, why am I having so much anxiety? And I said, Russia's going to change its posture. They're pushing NATO forces into the border. And I went and looked it up online, and sure enough, middle of the night, that's exactly what was going on. I don't want to get all mumbo-jumbo here. It's just I'm really concerned about Russia. And it's not because I'm on some Russian payroll. It's because they've got 10,000 nuclear weapons, and they're a Christian nation fighting radical Islam. And our government has been bombing Russian contractors on the ground that are fighting ISIS. I was reading this article in Reuters earlier. In fact, after Mr. Robinson leaves us, I'll get into it. And it was with a straight face. Mattis, I talked about it yesterday, too. Now I read the whole speech this morning. I only seen some quotes yesterday, but actually, like I said, I woke up in the middle of the night and was like reading everything Mattis actually said. I was like, God, this is worse than I thought. And he's like, we sure taught those Russians when we blew a couple hundred of them up a couple of months ago to watch it. Now Russia's working with us and pulled out their people so we don't blow more of them up. And it's like, you read it and it's said the Russian mercenaries, yeah, right, sheep dip, Spetsnaz, were fighting ISIS and U.S.-backed rebels. So the Pentagon's still trying to keep a group of nasties in there, which I already knew from my military sources months ago. And, of course, Trump's been double-crossed on that, I know for a fact. That's one reason he got rid of McMaster. And I got that directly from high-level CIA. And, folks, I don't just say that, okay? So where do you think I knew 3 weeks ago that Kim Jong-un had already agreed to denuclearization and in exchange for a 10-year unification plan with the South and tens of billions of dollars of infrastructure investment and a partnership with South Korea? I got that directly from the State Department. And you saw yesterday exactly what I said in the news. People say, well, why are you told this stuff? Because people want you to know we're the real deal. Now, that said, we've got this whole Cold War going that they're kicking off, and the Australian, that's the name of their biggest paper, the Australian newspaper, gets it right. They said that this is a worse situation, find the exact quote, they said this is more dangerous than any time during the Cold War. You find it. I mean, look at these headlines. U.S. almost attacked Russians again in Syria. Putin's new missiles. Where's that one I had? It's the Australian. And it basically points out how much danger we're in. But regardless, this is out of control. If I can't find it, you guys reprint me that article about, oh, here it is, I found it right here. Then we're going to Tommy. Russia vows to respond with force if Trump strikes Syria again. It's Newsweek. And I don't believe a word they say. I went and checked what the Russians actually said. It was true. Russia readies for opening strike in NATO war. Says they may strike first if weapons keep getting massed on their border. That's completely insane. Here it is. Russia crisis, hotter than the Cold War. Yeah, people keep saying, we're at risk of a new Cold War. No. It's worse already. This is crazy, man. I'm sitting there looking at my 11-month-old daughter, and I'm getting tired of this crap. All right. You've got the Pope coming out. We put it on screen from DrudgeReport.com and saying there is no hell. There is no being cut off from God. Now, I've made the joke that, I mean, he might as well just say he worships Baphomet and start eating babies on TV. Because he says, open your borders. He says, you know, submit to Islam. He says it makes him nauseous to hear about Christian roots. It's incredible. Tommy Robinson, the great patriot, attacked by Antifa, you name it, arrested, put in prison, just banned off Twitter yesterday. He joins us to break this down, and he was the guy 10 years ago that exposed the Muslim grooming gangs. In his town, he said thousands of girls, some of them killed. It all was confirmed. Now the BBC's had to admit it's been a giant cover-up. Meanwhile, migrant baby boom causes highest birth rate in Germany in 40 years. Voice of Europe. Swedish government releases brochure for migrants legitimizing sex with children and sex in child marriages. You cannot make that up. So the left is allied with Islam, the most radical forms of it, because Muhammad married a 9-year-old. That's what it is. The left are a pedophile religion, and that's what we're faced with. And I got more devil worship news here with Hillary. Mainstream news, arrest made and devil worship cult that Hillary's connected to. Oh, yeah. But let's go to Mr. Robinson. Thank you for joining us. We should tackle the censorship first, the candlelight vigil for the folks run over by the Islamicists, all of this. But getting into you banned on Twitter. I know we had the lady on yesterday who was banned off Twitter because she said, please don't mutilate women, and asked Sadiq Khan, the mayor, to speak out against Muslims sex slaving women. And he called that hate speech and had her banned. So this is next level. Will you now support mutilating women? Maybe you could be liberal.
I've seen this coming. I think everyone's seen this coming. This is the future. Removing off Twitter, Facebook will be next. YouTube will be next. This is about stopping any counter argument. And what they want is what they have now is they want to run articles about me. They want to label me as a hate preacher, and they don't want me to be able to reply to it. They don't want me to be able to expose their lies, and they've been successful. They've removed me from Twitter, and yeah, I saw. And
Sadiq Khan called for it 2 weeks ago. You were on the day he did it. You said I'll be banned soon, and now it's happened.
Sadiq Khan called for it. We had a leading Labour politician who went to YouTube CEOs and she asked them why they're recommending my hate videos. We had Saeeda Varsi. Saeeda Varsi is a Muslim lady. She was conservative baroness in our House of Lords. She stood up in Parliament talking about my hate. We had Mark Rowley, the leader of counter-terrorism. All of these are common purpose. We had Mark Rowley, the leader of counter-terrorism, who stood up, who gave press conferences on national TV and again spoke about my hate. Hate is the new word over here. Hate is the new word. We had racist, they beat that down, they wore that out. We had Nazi, they beat that down, they wore that out. Now the word is hate. And with hate, they don't have to back it up or explain it. They just say it's hate speech. And I know that if I got in front of any one of these individuals, any one of them, and asked for one example, give me one example. Because I done an interview yesterday with Russia Today. It's just gone out today. And in that, the journalist spoke about my hate. And I said to her, you're a journalist. You've obviously researched before this interview. Have you not? She said, yes. Give me one example of my hate. Just one that you found. And of course she couldn't. Of course she couldn't. Because the problem is now that's literally speaking. Do you know what? Her response was, you speak about Islam. I said, yeah. So I speak about an ideology, a religion, and I'm not allowed to. And that's where we're going. What they're doing is they're legitimizing and criminalizing speak and talk of Islam.
And if you don't support having sex with 9-year-old girls, you're hateful because the religion says it's okay. This is next level. And what you said is critical. I'll come right back from break and get this with Tommy Robinson here, banned off Twitter, that Sadiq Khan and all these people, they just say ban us and lie about what we've said and what we've done, and then we're disappeared, and then that's really what's hateful. That's what's fascistic. That's what's Nazi-like. That's what is the big danger. And they're here and they're really doing it. And they're, again, in Sweden saying it's politically correct. We've got to let our 9-year-old daughters have sex with Muslim men. Anybody else does it, you're going to prison. All right, folks, we are back live, broadcasting worldwide. I am your host, Alex Jones. We've been having some technical difficulties lately. I apologize to our stations. We've had several computers go out. We're getting new equipment. We normally are glitch-free. But that's the thing about glitches. Once they start, they multiply. And then pretty soon, you shut down. That's how it works. You let gremlins in, they multiply. And that's the way countries are. You let communism and socialism and all this garbage take over. You let the government and special groups get control of your kids. Those are the control freaks that want to take control of your life. And that's where we are right now. Now, we're going to go back to Tommy Robinson, banned off Twitter. And they're doing this where Milo Yiannopoulos, Tommy Robinson, drip, 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 drip. He should be getting a Pulitzer Prize. He should be getting an award for breaking sex grooming. There should be a Hollywood movie where there's a guy that owns a tanning salon and a company and his happy father, and he sees Muslim men pimping 8-year-old girls and stands up and fights them and gets thrown in prison in solitary confinement, and they try to kill him, and he gets out and he all this stuff. No, 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 no. He gets banned on Twitter, and Sadiq Khan supports Sharia law and bans former Muslim women that don't want their genitals cut off. The media goes, shut up, women. We'll cut your genitals off. And Sadiq Khan says, hey, I want Tommy Robinson shut down. And a week and a half later, he shut up. Isn't that nice? We'll go back to him in a moment. Now, just briefly, because I hardly plug, because I just want to get back to the news. We have the best supplements. We have the best products. We have the best water filters. We have the best non-GMO heirloom seeds. We have the best air filtration. We have the best of everything. We go out and find the very best and then discount it. We have Body's ultimate turmeric product. It's amazing. It's sold out in just a few weeks. It is back in. By the way, I wanted to change the label from red to orange because turmeric's orange. We did that, and it's in. And it is 25% off. It is amazing, and your purchase funds the operation. It will sell out very quickly because we got a limited shipment. We're about to end the special on Brain Force Plus, 50% off. The Real Red Pill, 50% off. And when you get the two together, you get a 50% off and free shipping. Infowarsstore.com, Infowarslive.com, or 888-253-3139. Thousands of positive reviews for each item. No reviews yet, obviously, for each combo pack. We should probably, when we have the new combo pack, that runs for like a week, probably not even have the reviews because there are no reviews of a combo pack because it's only there for a week. But Infowarsstore.com, Infowarslive.com, or 888-253-3139. And we're about to sell out of Super Blue Silver Immune Gargle. It's a supplement. You can swallow it as well. A little spray bottle. It's amazing. It's got the silver sol, patented solution, iodine, and more. That's about to sell out. But it is your funding that allows us to stand against Soros's lawsuits and the globalists and move forward and deliver victory. So we salute you all, Infowarsstore.com. All right, going back to Tommy Robinson for this segment and the next. You're on fire, my friend. When I mentioned this thing about Sweden, where they have fire police chiefs that say 90+% of the rapes are Muslim, where they arrest women that say it's wrong that Muslims are raping people, where they tell women that are raped, don't wear short skirts. That's the same thing in the Netherlands, also in Germany. You read this stuff, this is coming out of their mouths. The leader of the Green Party, the female mayor of Cologne, when hundreds of women get raped, she says, well, don't wear short mini skirts or wear a wristband, saying, don't rape me. This is next level. And now the Swedes are finally up in arms over a children's manual and government releases brochure for migrants legitimizing child marriage and talking about it. So this is next level. I mean, as you said, is that why the British elite are backing Islam, is because of its pedophilic third rail?
I think that what they're doing is they can see that certain people like ourselves are now reaching people. We're reaching people in large numbers. So they're going to silence us. They're going to stop us. I've been to Sweden, I've been to Holland, I've been to Germany, I've been to all of these countries over the last 9 years. Originally, we started going there in 2009, trying to wake people up. The people weren't ready, but it is now, it's bubbling. And I'm going out there and you see more and more people ready, more and more people listening. Due to the internet, due to these sort of channels, due to alternative media, people are seeing, they're hearing, they're seeing the real news, they're seeing the truth. And that's why now they know that. They know that. That's why they're taking the power back. They're silencing us, they're removing us. And they're doing it across the country. Even if you look in France, Marie Le Pen, before the election, they removed 10,000 social media accounts. that were pro-her. They just removed them. And when you see the power that has, whenever a negative news article went out about me, I'd tweet the article. All the people who follow me, obviously their eyes are open, they know the truth, they've seen what's happening, they would then go on and react, and before you know it, they'd be convincing people and arguing people, and there'd be dialogue and debate. But now they've removed me, they'll be able to just put these things up. And this child paedophilia, this grooming scandal that we're talking about, this is going on the length, every single town and city in our country. 70 towns have identified mass Muslim rape gangs that have been taking English girls, 70. But we've seen massive cases. If I ask you, what's the two biggest towns you know of rape scandals in the UK? You'll say Rotherham and Telford. Now, both of those towns have hardly any Muslims. Hardly any. I mean, like in Rotherham, there's only 3,500 men that fit the age with the criteria that can be involved in these rapes. So how many of them were, and that's why these towns are being used as scapegoats, because they simply cannot identify the real towns, the real problems. For example, in my town, where there's, instead of 3,500 Muslims, there's 60, 70,000. So the real rape gangs and the real problems are in Bradford, are in Birmingham, are in Luton, are in these sort of towns. And none of those towns have had massive grooming scandal news because they can't deal with it in those towns. They could not do it because instead of 1,400 children, we'd be seeing records of 14,000 children. We'd be seeing just how big
because
it is.
Let's say it. In the mainline religion of Islam, abusing boys and girls is the religion. I mean, having sex with boys. If you're an adult and have gay sex, they kill you. But if you're a man with a boy, it's in the Quran, it's okay. This is so out of control. And that's why the globalists love it. That's why. And you can have sex with 9-year-old girls. And so the left are a bunch of devil-worshipping pedophiles. They love it. That's why they love Islam.
Well, in heaven under Islam, if you martyr yourself, you get 72 virgins and 14 young boys that never grow old. 14 young boys that
never grow old. By the way, they
old.
always ignore the 14 young boy part.
Yeah,
by the way, you can tell none of these Muslims, 74 virgins, that means little girls, folks. That sounds like a nightmare.
In the Quran, it talks about boys that look like pearls, beautiful boys that look like pearls. Ugh. And of course, they never talk about this. So in heaven, everything that they want is loads of young girls and loads of young boys. And that's what they're being
exactly.
Brought up.
Heaven is a pedophile paradise. Under that Quranic interpretation, heaven is where Sandusky goes.
Yeah. Heaven is where, and we see it. We see this, and to be honest, this is what they want to do. So, I was removed from Twitter for saying Islam promotes killing people. It does. No matter how much state censorship, or no matter how many Twitter companies, you can't change 1,400 years of history. You can't change a book that has 100 verses that tells them to kill us. I'm just stating a fact. And that's what I've been removed from social media for. Stating a fact because they don't
I was told by a New York Times writer, and then I got another phone call. I was like, oh, this is a message. They said, you're about to be destroyed. This is a year ago. And I said, what do you want? And it didn't mean I was going to give in. I said, off record, I said, what do you want? And they said, don't talk about Islam anymore. Just stop it, Alex. You got it. And I realized they're all bought off. And I said, I will now I'm really going to go crazy.
Well, and that's it. The more they try to stop, us, the bigger our voices get. And Alex, I said in response, I'll talk about it if this is going to a break now. I'll talk about it in the next part. But I want to say what we want to do in Britain in response to their attack on our free speech.
Absolutely. But I tell you, it's also defamation why they said they got rid of you. It is just sick. And
hate.
Go ahead, sorry.
They said hate. They said hateful. What? Well, because I said Islam promotes killing. That's hateful. Islam's hateful. Islam's hate. And you know what? Hamas, Hezbollah, Muslim Brotherhood, all prescribed terrorist organizations, all have Twitter accounts, all promote hate.
That's another good point. Hezbollah and Hamas have Twitter accounts, but Tommy Robinson doesn't, and Milo, harmless intellectual. Milo's a smart guy. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Vampirism. There are thousands of forms of it. There's the physical act of drinking the blood. But almost all the forms that we see exercised are hurting the innocent, the youth, the beautiful. This cult that Hillary Clinton's connected to and these senators and leftists that's in the news and they arrest for women in cages and being branded was like beautiful models starving themselves down to anorexia so that this little weird control freak could come in and have them grovel and call him God. And you look at him and he just looks like a demonic, weak, pathetic worm that nobody want to be around. But Hollywood's like a big bug zapper that the moths just fly into. So when I see a red carpet or I see Hollywood now, I see a big, giant, rotting, dead horse. Bloated with flies and maggots just all over it. I'm serious. And I think I'm going to just start having videos where I just show Hollywood and just dead animals or rotting or starving children or buzzards eating babies in Africa. Because let me tell you, that's what it is. And it's a big, big bug zapper. So a bunch of child predators, people that prey on children can have their way. And it's the same thing in the UK. Mainstream news in the UK admits it's a national security issue. The government's run by pedophiles. And they give standing ovations in Hollywood for Roman Polanski. And you got all the other fawning people that are just reporters trying to be part of it because they don't have anything inward. I mean, you'll find God out on a lake in the mist in the morning or in the mountains just walking by yourself. You will find the devil in Hollywood in the mainstream system. And that is the point. Tommy Robinson, you're on fire, my friend, banned from Twitter, not deterred. What are you doing to strike back with the work you're doing against this? Because you know how it works. You've already been in prison before for speech and lost your house and everything else, but you came out stronger. First, they silence you before they try to put your butt in prison.
We've organised, basically, if I give you the last 2-3 weeks in my country, Martin Selner and Brittany Pettibone were stopped at the airport. They were held. They were put in a detention centre. An American journalist was put in a British detention centre
for 4 days,
full of for 3 days, and then deported. Okay, and a Canadian, Lauren Southern, was held, detained under the Terrorism Act, and she was deported and banned for life because she talks about Islam. So we're seeing blasphemy laws put in through the back door. We've then seen Speaker's Corner has been taken over by hostile, aggressive, mafia-style Muslims. 300 years of free speech in our country, debate, people giving their opinions on feminism, on politics, all taken over from an Islamic ghetto cult in Speaker's Corner. Now, I'm banned off Twitter. So on the 6th of May, I'm organising a March for Freedom. This is not about just my Twitter ban. This is about everything, the complete attack on our freedoms, the erosion and the end of free speech, that our rights and our freedoms are being taken away from us as we sit by idly. And once they've started, when you see the progression over the matter of weeks, think about the matter of years. Basically, we're going to criminalise speaking about Islam. We're going to remove people. So on the 6th of May, on a Sunday, we're going to meet at Speaker's Corner and we're going to march for our capital city. And Alex, I'll ask you now, if you could find time, come and fight for freedom of speech in Britain on the 6th of May. I'd love to host you. I'd love you to be able to come. I'd love you to be on the front line with us. We want everyone who values freedom, everyone who values freedom across the world. This march will be a march for freedom. We're actually going to march to Twitter's offices.
What is the date? What is the date?
It's Sunday, the 6th of May. It's bank holiday weekend in the UK. So on the Monday, everyone's off work.
I'd have to put off my Achilles surgery, but I might do it. And I don't really want the stunt of being in the news. But I know they've debated banning me. What do you want to bet if I try to fly over there for a free speech rally that they try to ban me coming into the country?
If they possibly would. If they did, then it lets the world know again what a totalitarian system we're under. It lets the world know. Everyone will see it. So again.
And by the way, I want to say this. Come back and do 2 more minutes, then we're going to talk to Marc Morano. But I don't just say this to be an Anglophile, because I'm not. I'm a humophile. I love humanity. People think like America was at war with Britain in 1776. Everything in our revolution was an extension of the fights they had there from Magna Carta up, and most of the parliament supported us, and so our revolution was a British revolution. All right, Tommy Robinson, we're finishing up with him, and now it's already a best-selling book, Politically Incorrect Guide to Climate Change. We need to carry that. I love having all these great authors on. I have an online bookstore, and I never even make the connection to sell it, but that's how we fund the operation. But got Marc Morano popping in here in just a moment. We're talking to, of course, Tommy Robinson of Tommy Robinson Online. Online, and of course Twitter no longer. So that's been deleted. And it's because he's smart. He's a handsome guy. He has courage. He takes on 9 Antifa guys and kicks their ass. You know, the woman, that's doing his camera work, she beats up a couple of them. I mean, they're authoritarian thugs. And all of us should unify against this and say no. So in closing here, I can't believe Sweden's published a guide on how to have sex with children and telling people that Muslims are allowed to do it. I can't believe, that's up on Infowars.com, that this is all going on, but it is. And so what do we do? Because I don't want to sit here and bash Muslims. I know that there are Muslim countries that don't do this stuff. I know there's been golden age of Muslims. I know, but the radical worst forms of it are being supported. I like the Saudi Arabian prince that's trying to work with the West and meeting with rabbis and Christians and saying women are going to drive cars, they're going to go to college, you don't have to wear hijabs if they don't want to. That's good. We need a reformation in Islam. I don't want to be at war with it, but the elements that won't modernize are attacking us, and then the left that claims they're the modernist and the progressives are trying to make us submit to a monotheistic Stone Age religion that cuts women's genitals off and throws gays off buildings, and then if you criticize it, you're banned. I mean, Paul Watson has had his YouTube channel within 1 strike, and it's the videos criticizing them murdering gay people. And then the gay news sites attack me and say all these lies and defend Islam. It's like a cucking, or what is it?
The whole world's upside down. It's insane, isn't it? I was talking about it earlier. The whole world's upside down. Everything. It's just like, there's so many groups that put so much effort and time into attacking us. And if they just put that effort and time into attacking the real fascists, the real organisations, instead of trying to get me banned on Twitter, as we said, Hamas, Hezbollah, Muslim Brotherhood, terrorist organisations, real hate, not us identifying it, but the real hate. If they tackled that, but a lot of them, see the problem, a lot of them see it as an alignment because they want to overthrow democracy, they want to overthrow the rule of law, and they see Islam as the biggest weapon to do that. So they will combine with it. It's not genuine because of anti-fascist views. It's usually to do with communism or Marxism, and they want the complete destruction of the nation. They hate the rule of law, they hate the police, and they sort of have this loose alignment, even though they hate religion. They have this loose alignment where we'll work together until we get there. Not realising...
Well, I mean, I see the atheist arguments against these corrupt churches and some of the stuff they do. Even though I don't agree with the atheists, I agree with their critique of some out-of-control Christian groups. But then the Muslims are like 50 million light years worse, and the Pope's saying there is no hell. If he wants to be a leftist professor globalist, go ahead, but don't claim you're the Pope, man. You know, it's like he claims he's playing rock and roll, and he's playing... on a tinker toy or with a xylophone. I mean, dude, you're the Pope. You're a Christian. It's just and like the lady you pointed out, who's one of the main leaders against genital mutilation. Khan calls for you to be banned, her to be banned, and then you're both banned. And all she's saying is, please speak out against genital mutilation in Islam. You're a leader. Please do it. And because that's so real, a real woman saying that, they ban her. I mean, that is crazy.
And the Pope talks about open borders. Well, you open the gates of the Vatican. You open the walls of the Vatican. You let them come and live with you. Stop talking about letting them live with us. That's what it completely winds me up. And you was talking about Russia when we started this conversation. We've had this false flag attack in the UK where a Russian ex-spy, so an ex-traitor to Russia, has been killed in our country, and so has his daughter. And what we've seen... They say they used a Russian nerve agent. Why would Russia use a Russian nerve agent? Why don't they just stab him if they want to kill him? Why would they use something so high profile to get so much media?
It's so obvious, and just like the sinking of the Mainer war propaganda or Operation Himmler to start World War II, it's completely obvious they use a Russian nerve agent. They won't even say if the people are alive or dead, and now we're told we're on the edge of World War III. Oh, it's completely obvious. Absolutely. That's how you kill somebody, is a bag over their head. You come in their apartment, you kill them. You don't kill them on a park bench with nerve gas that's then fingerprinted back to you. That is ridiculous.
And then our response to that, so one man killed, our response to Russia is to expel the diplomats. ISIS.
Which, by the way, is what you do before war.
Yeah, and ISIS ISIS blow up 3 times last year, 4 times in our country. They blow up, they murder, they maim children.
They blow up little girls. They blow up little girls.
Little girls. What was our response? Our response was to allow 450 of their fighters back, to give them houses, to give them money. And then now we're letting 1,000 of jihadi brides back. Yet 1 Russian's killed, we expel their diplomats. It's insane. How?
No, because Russia is Christian.
And how no one can see it? It's like, why? If they wanted to kill him, why would they use a Russian nerve agent? Come on. Come on. And when you see it building up, and as an Englishman, I think, I don't want to go to war with Russia. Why would we want to go to war with Russia? Why are you trying to maneuver and then Australia are getting involved?
By the way, war with Russia means the end of life on Earth.
And I truly believe that our Brexit, if they start a war with Russia, it will be the excuse they use that we're stronger together with the European Union.
Of course.
And we need to stay.
Well, no. Peter Sutherland, before he died, you're very astute. Did you read the BBC 2 years ago? He said, if you break up the EU, it will cause war. There will be war. They're saying, you let us have total power, we're going to start a war with Russia. And then you will. That's what they're doing, brother.
I can see it. When they start expelling diplomats, I think, well, you've expelled none of these radical jihadists. None of them. You're not one of them.
No. In fact, you're not just saying it. In the news, they say, I'm going to kill Englishmen. They go, oh, come right in. And then meanwhile, Michael Savage can't come in because he criticizes Islam. Imagine, I'm going to come back and kill you and bomb you. And then, like in 10 cases, they do bomb. They say, I'm coming to bomb you. Oh, we'll come right through customs. My God. I tell you, it's time to start arresting the politicians. They are the traitors. They are the enemies. Go ahead, sorry.
We've got lawyers and politicians. Politicians in Scotland, Muslim politicians, part of the Scottish National Party, who are having massive campaigns to bring the jihadi brides home. Yet we're stopping journalists. We're stopping radio presenters. We're stopping everyone. And yet we have the toughest border force in the world when it comes to a journalist who talks about Islam. It's absolutely insane. It's infuriating. As an Englishman looking at what's going on in our country, it's embarrassing as well. And it's embarrassing. And we're sitting here waiting for the next attack in our nation. Meanwhile, our government are trying to stop it.
And again, Russia is not allied with radical Islam and is stopping it. You see the alliance that General Flynn wanted with Japan, South Korea, Russia, the U.S., Brazil, anybody else that wants to be part of free market. Meanwhile, the corrupt Pope, the radical Muslims, Hollywood, the globalists, the communist Chinese, that's who the left has chosen. They are the traitors. They are the plague. And they're not going to win, my friend. Just keep getting the word out. My parents were just over in the UK for 2 weeks. They were in Scotland and in the UK, in England. And they said people were bringing up InfoWars and you and Paul Watson and Nigel Farage and all the cabs and everywhere without them even saying it. They were like, you're from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones. It happened like 4 times. My mother said, my God, you're like a rock star in England. It's not about me being a rock star. It's that England's on fire. Scotland's on fire. Tommy Robinson, we'll talk to you again. I want you to come on every couple days. You're doing a great job, and we're trying to obviously sponsor some of the work you're doing. God bless you, Tommy, and we're going to win. The fact you've been banned from Twitter is a badge of honor.
Thank you, Alex. And we want to do a video. We've ordered, the money you sent us. We're ordering all the equipment, and we will do a video of it all together to say we're out there. We're getting these videos. You've helped us. Thank you very much.
But you notice the money didn't have strings attached. That's how we do things. We just appreciate your work. God bless you. That's our listeners' money. Okay, God bless you. All right, Marc Morano, thanks for holding 10 minutes. Marc Morano, best-selling book, #1 on Amazon, but you don't see it anywhere. The Politically Incorrect Guide to Climate Change. Evil personified. Stay with us. We'll be back. Infowars.com, newswars.com, climatedepot.com. Stay with us. Now, just like I just had Ted Nugent on, or I just had Tommy Robinson on, or I have Ron Paul on, or any of these people, they're all game changers in their area. Critical individuals that broke the news and were Paul Revere's, and Marc Morano advising Congress, advising the Senate, climatedepot.com, climatehustle.org. It's him and Lord Montra. They're the ones that, without their research, their doggedness, we wouldn't be here. And they call for his arrest in France, you name it. They try to stop his films being shown. He's got his new best-selling book, Climate Change, the Politically Incorrect Guide to Climate Change. We carry his film, The Climate Hustle, InfoWarsStore.com. But and I know this went to like #1 I was reading a few weeks ago on Amazon, but no news coverage of that. Doesn't matter. We are the news. We don't need the fake New York Times and all them with their fake lists to do this. But he joins us to cover their latest assault, the globalists, to take over energy and what Trump's doing and why the economy's coming back. and so much more. But I got to just bring it up to you, Mark. What do you make of Trump? And I was told this by Ted Nugent off record. He said I could talk about it today during the break. We never got to it. But he talked to POTUS and he talked to some other folks. And they're like, look, we're going to tell them, okay, we're opening your gun control. So they admit they want to ban it because that's the bills they've already got. Just give me a chance, Trump said. He did it. And now it's got Republicans 10, 15 points, back up in the polls. So I'm not really Machiavellian like that. I can be, but I'm just kind of a straight shooter. I don't kind of like playing politics. But I got to say, man, Trump really is playing 4D chess.
Yes, Trump is handling this well. I get a little nervous when he starts talking about bump stocks and starts sounding a little bit appeasing, because once you feed this beast, the gun control beast, there's no end. The same thing with the climate change. But Trump has held steady on that. And I will tell you, Alex, not only want to talk about my book today, but I want to talk to you about the parallels between this gun control movement and the climate change movement. It is unbelievable how the gun control activists are borrowing from the most successful propaganda effort in history, climate change. And I'm talking about the use of kids, indoctrinating them as young as possible, involving them in lawsuits against the government to force government action. I'm talking about the way they get funded. I'm talking about the way they bypass and want to alter the Constitution in order to get their agenda. The climate control, we'll call them, climate control activists and the gun control activists are in complete harmony, but the gun control activists are copying a very successful strategy from the climate change activists. And Trump has been pretty solid on both.
No, I agree. And I don't like the rhetoric either. It's just that was the strategy to get them to come out and admit they want it all and what it's really about.
Yeah, he sort of drew him out, especially. And it's funny to see the mainstream media denying that the former Supreme Court justice actually said what he said. And they're still doing that. They're still saying, oh, he didn't mean that. But it's one of the greatest things we could have to turn this debate back on him. They want to stress
exactly. So quantify, first it was global freezing, then global warming. Now they say change. Well, everybody knows there's change. They say we're denying change. No, we're denying that humans are what controls everything and that paying Al Gore tax money is going to save us. But as you said, Marxists, communists, authoritarians, Hitler, people said, oh, don't criticize the gun marchers because they're connected to Hitler. Well, Soros was a Nazi collaborator. The youth movements are very fascistic generally, or Maoistic, communistic. And so I think that's totally fair to draw those parallels. And you're right. That's what they're doing, Marc Morano of ClimateDepot.com. They are following the famous authoritarian model.
They absolutely are. And interestingly enough, they've always tried to conceal their real agenda, the same way the climate activists have as well. The climate activists, and in the book, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Climate Change, I openly have all the documentation and the exact quotes, them saying this isn't about the climate, this isn't about environmental policy, it's about redistribution of wealth, global governance, central power. The UN climate chief actually says in my book, I interviewed her, she actually says we seek a centralized transformation that will make life on planet Earth very different. Now, flip that over to the gun control debate. They haven't been that honest until recently. And you're right. Maybe Trump drew this out by getting them all, by getting them more candid. But they try to say, oh, we just need this gun safety measure. We just need this one thing. But now we've drawn the gun control advocates into admitting they want to get rid of and completely eliminate the Second Amendment. So it's the exact same thing. They conceal their real agenda, and the real agenda is completely nothing to do with the actual issue. It's got nothing to do with the school shooting, because they're using and exploiting children the same way they do in climate. They do that in the gun control debate.
Well, you're one of the leading experts then that advises the Senate. Quantify what the end game is. I know a lot of people know, but quantifying what is their end game if they had their cake, and what is their next salvo, their next rollout?
Well, as you've been saying here, I actually traveled to the Czech Republic to interview former Czech President Václav Klaus in person. And he said, having grown up under the Soviet Eastern Bloc domination, since the fall of the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc, the greatest threat we face today is what he calls ambitious environmentalism, or the global warming agenda. They are going after every aspect of our lives, from dishwashers to light bulbs to transportation to our diet to our lifestyles to our home energy use to our vehicles to our sovereignty. And this is their agenda. It's the same agenda. In the book, Alex, I actually go back to the overpopulation scare, the resource scarcity scare, the global cooling scare, and I show that no matter what environmental crisis that they had, the solution was always the same, including in the 1960s and 70s. And that solution, global governance, wealth redistribution, central planning. And I go back, same solution, different environmental scare. And I show it over and over. There's no way you can look at the overwhelming evidence and assume for a minute that they're actually worried about the climate, and in the modern day thing with gun control, that they're actually worried about the safety of children. It has nothing to do with it. This is about their agenda, how they can mask it, how they can move it forward. And they are frighteningly similar, the climate change activists and the gun control activists.
Absolutely. They've already disarmed everybody else around the world except for Switzerland and the U.S. So when we talk about the global carbon tax, the system to regulate it and track it, this is their big enchilada. This is world government funding. So we blow this up, we save the planet. And Trump has delivered. And look, in only 14, 15 months in office, how the economy turned around just because they took the restraints off just a little bit. I mean, wow. I mean, that's really proof of life, proof of concept.
I want to say one thing. Ann Coulter has been making no sense to me, going around saying that Donald Trump has disappointed her, XYZ. Compare Donald Trump.
She is just grandstanding, man. She's turned into a total. Why didn't she go bite the head off chickens at the damn fair if she wants attention? She's a geek.
But someone needs to ask her a simple question. Compare her to how a President Mitt Romney would have been, John McCain. Compare him to a George W. Bush, a George H.W. Bush, or a President Dole. Where does Donald Trump fail in any aspect?
No, he's the royal flush. He's already better than Reagan. Exactly. And you know the enemy. I don't want to get. I ignored Coulter when I saw this crap, but I mean, she's just pulling stunts now. You know, I mean, it's what's wrong with her?
She wrote the book on it, and now she's acting as though he's turned. But he hasn't. And on the climate, I have a whole chapter. First, I have a whole chapter, Alex, on child indoctrination, and I go through the details. It is appalling when you see. I actually feature the Weather Channel founder.
Well, I know you got to go, but do one more. Oh, he was awesome. Too bad he just died. I want to come back and talk about the founder of the Weather Channel and everything else. Man, I tell you, folks, it is. Yeah, I don't want to go off on a jag on Ann Coulter, but man, God Almighty. And look, say whatever she wants about Trump, but you know, I'm not even going to get into it. It doesn't matter. He brought it up. It's instant gratification culture. What do you people expect? Trump's not God. You know, it's kind of narcissistic that we come into each segment, go Alex Jones, but that's how Arbitron ratings work for radio. Radio stations want you to do that. So that's this is a radio show that grew into a TV show that grew into a TV network that grew into the Second American Revolution. But that's why we do that. But getting serious here, the left always bill themselves as the saviors. And if you study their antecedents, their fount, their progeneration, their origination, their proto-primeval development, they come out of the Jacobins in France. And if you go read mainline history books, they were devil worshippers that wanted a 9-day work week, total enslavement, to have sex with children, basically Hollywood. And it's great to have Lord Monckton, because he's a big historian. He knows all about this, and he'll get into all of it. But that's where it goes. So you wonder, it's just about maximum power for elites. So you have free market capitalism, you have crony globalist capitalism that's against that. You have the Democrats that have 70+% of the wealth in Congress, but they're always trying to create this culture war and want to transfer wealth. What they want is a tax on everything you do and the surveillance of that to track and control it and then exempt themselves. Like China and India are exempt, we're not. So Trump says, that's a screw job, I'm not doing that. And Marc Morano, who was hugely critical of Republicans, says, wow, that's really great. That alone puts Trump up there in lights. So going back to Marc Morano, the left always bills themselves as the saviors. But if you look at the countries everybody's trying to get into, it's the places that at least have quasi-free market. And they're not one level above them. It's a whole other universe of better. And Bernie Sanders is like, I don't like the fact you can get 1,000 different doctors and 30 types of deodorant. It's confusing. My honeymoon was in the Soviet Union. That's a real quote. And you're like, wow. And he tells a bunch of idiot college students who have all these choices that the West is bad as they try to wreck it as quickly as possible. So that's their plan to have a managed economy. As you mentioned in your book, you have the documents. They admit this all. The Politically Incorrect Guide to Climate Change. I want to talk to them about that. So looking at them, they bill themselves as a savior of the earth, but it's really a eugenics-based, transhumanist, post-industrial world model of feudalism, in their own words. And so really, those of us fighting them are not trying to be saviors of the earth. We're just trying to not live in a giant high-tech gulag. So can you get into their ideology and get into how we're going to stop them, Marc Morano?
Well, as the Greenpeace co-founder Patrick Moore says, who's turned against Greenpeace, it is the most anti-human ideology today, the climate agenda, modern environmental movement. In the book, I have a little notice quote from Al Gore at a Bill Gates event talking about how Africa is projected to have the hugest population explosion in the 21st century. And you know what Al Gore's solution is? Quote, ubiquitous fertility management because there's going to be too many people of color in the world. Now, the quote was ubiquitous fertility management. But we have a white, wealthy Western politician lamenting that there's going to be too many Africans, and the solution is to get rid of them with ubiquitous fertility management, unquote. This is their agenda. And this is not, how does Al Gore get away with that? Can you imagine Donald Trump, the media letting him get away with saying there's going to be too many black people, too many Africans, we've got to limit their population in order to save the earth? This is their agenda. Their agenda goes, we document in the book how even in Africa, where they have no running water, no electricity, they use the rivers for sewers. They burn dung and wood in their huts, and they're breathing in horrible pollution. They're being denied modern, cheap fossil fuel energy because the earth can't handle it. They're not allowed to make the West's mistake, the wealthy country's mistakes. This is immoral. I interviewed Governor of California, Jerry Brown, saying the developing world in Africa and South America can't emulate the United States capitalism and prosperity.
Well, Obama told Africa you can't have air conditioning or cars.
That's right, unless it's done by essentially white wealthy Westerners managing it. And Obama's administration was very detrimental to Africa, prevented many coal plants from going online. I document that in the book as well.
Oh, yeah. The answer to Africa's population explosion, because it is overpopulated in some areas, is we know 1,000% from Japan to Italy to everywhere. You industrialize, population growth drops to 1.3, 1.4. We would have a African population decline instead of a giant Islamic bloom and invasion. And I'm all for there being more Africans. Just don't be foaming at the mouth Africans with knives in your teeth coming across on Soros boats to slit our throats.
Well, what's happening in Africa is you're exactly right with the development part. When they get development, their population would stabilize and ultimately decline. And the only reason some European countries is all the influx of immigration. But it is amazing what development and prosperity does to human beings. It cleans up the environment. That's the perverse thing. Fossil fuels actually clean up. Exactly. It cleans up your rivers. It cleans up your air. They don't mention that. The other thing they do, they make all these scary predictions to bring everyone in. And I document how Paul Ehrlich, the 1960s overpopulation, he was compared to, quote, just like Hitler by contemporaries in the 1960s. He wanted to put sterilization agents in the water.
Sure, that's what I'm getting at, is that the left goes and weaponizes Africa and makes them hate the West. Then Soros opens it up, lets Islam and with Obama grow and take over Africa, and then use the giant blooming population to then come in to, quote, conquer Europe in a race-based system instead of everybody just working together. This is the most diabolical evil, and really that's what it is. Bill Gates, Al Gore, the globalists are, the Democrats are the maddest they've been at Trump right now since slavery ended. I mean, that's really true. They're the ones. And it's true. They're just race-based because they're cold-blooded. And how do we get the average leftist to understand how they've been conned?
Well, that's part of the thing. Now, what I try to do in the book is I feature left-wing scientists who are committed environmentalists. I feature scientists who voted for Al Gore, think he's a smart man, would vote for Al Gore for president again, but they're appalled at his science presentation. They're appalled to what they see as global warming hijacking real environmental issues like clean air, clean water, cleaning up areas. They think that global warming is one of the most anti-environmental issues. And I try to profile these politically left-wing scientists in order to make it okay for other left-wing activists to realize the error of their ways. I feature United Nations scientists who turned against the UN and openly admit and this is one of the funny things in the book, Alex, they actually behind the scenes in the UN talk about, will make the next report so alarming, the world will have to act. They talk about how they have to get rid of the medieval warm period because if we have one, if they acknowledge it, then they can't explain current warmth because we had a medieval warm period 800 years ago simply because we didn't, and we had a medieval warm period without benefit of coal plants and SUVs. So they talk openly about altering the data. I go through all of this in the book. So even left-wing activists, the hope is not that they're going to change their ways, but that they'll abandon the climate movement as they abandoned the overpopulation movement, the global cooling movement, the Amazon deforestation movement, the resource scarcity movement. All the previous environmental scares have eventually been abandoned because they were scientifically untenable, and we're reaching that tipping point with global warming.
Well, Marc Morano, we know the collectivists want to manage and control humanity. It's what they crave. Free market libertarians, we just crave turning humanity loose. And history's replete. I mean, as you know, in Venezuela, they long ago ate their dogs and cats. Now it's cannibalism, and the government won't let you say thousands die a week from starvation. I just look at the average college students, and I'm not trying to be mean. They look like they've been beat upside the head with a lobotomy scalpel, and I just don't know what we're going to do because there's something about dumb people. They hate civilization. They hate electricity. They hate the light. They see it as like a threat. So they try to pull it down and then starve to death. And then they're so dumb they don't know why they starve to death.
Yeah, and we have a collegiate organization called Collegiates for Constructive Tomorrow, and we've noticed just in the last 5 years, college kids coming up have been so indoctrinated in this agenda of the climate change and environmental that they are now, different from college kids 5 years ago. I mean, it's working from kindergarten through college when you start this indoctrination. And I feature Leonardo DiCaprio in the book saying, you got to get kids young. And Al Gore's producer, Lori David, we want you to grow up to be activists. They're succeeding, Alex, and we're losing this whole generation. As witness.
That's right. Well, that's what Islam says. You got to get the kids young. All right, and Sadiq Khan doesn't want to stop genital mutilation. In fact, you can get banned off Twitter if you criticize it. It's a sacrament of the left. Thank you, Marc Morano. Thank you so much. We'll be back, folks. Stay with us. By the way, everybody that listens knows that I don't like say, hey, this is coming up, then build it up. I tend to just get right to it. And we've got so much news we haven't even gotten to. But the Ted Nugent thing, I've met Ted, known Ted. He's been on for 16, 17 years. Love what he does. But I went out to his house. His wife's so cool. The natural light in his house was so great. We were over there like 2.5 hours. And then we spent like 3 weeks putting this video together. It's like an hour and a half long. And I said in the meetings. And then, 10 a.m. it'll launch. It'll be on InfoWars. We'll have the video. We can promote it to everybody. We'll play excerpts on the show. We'll have Ted Nugent on. Then it wasn't kind of ready last week. So I said, let's just move it to next week. But I'm not mad at anybody. It's these patterns. Because the bigger the production, the more it airs on Friday. Or the more it just never gets ready. And then we always post it at like 5 and no one Twitters it or no one Facebooks it. It's like the bigger and more important, it's like it's thrown to the side. It's not this time. Because I realized that it wasn't done for upload and everything, which is fine. It's fine. Because here's the deal. I'll do something at my house and it gets 1 million views. I do some big Ted Nugent production and, and it gets 500,000 views and he comes on the show, it gets 2 million views. It's like you never know. But it's important video, so I want to build it up. And then I realized, I said, okay, move it to tomorrow now. So we'll air it on the show and upload it so I can say it's on the site and everybody can tweet it and Facebook it. And I went, oh my God, I just did it to myself again. Friday, the dead zone. So we're going to air it next week. I'm going to call Ted as he's waiting to hear it and wants to see it. And I'm going to say, oh, sorry, we decided to push it to next week to get even more promotion. But I think a meteor may hit the office before that happens. I'm serious. I mean, I don't think we could air that sucker and have it on the website at 7 a.m. and promote it and have it and do it. I don't think we can because I've noticed that if something had time and energy put into it, trash can that sucker. But my son goes, I want to come up and challenge Hog, and boom, we don't think about it, goes right out, viral everywhere, total victory. So I'm just trying to figure out it's like some theory I've got about interspatial dimensional fields or something where if you care about something and you do a bunch of work on it, it can't air. And then no one works together. And then no one communicates. And that's why I've just got a gun live. Because gunning it out live on radio and TV and forcing people into the clock and forcing into that live stream is everything. Because then you get victory. Then you get what's real. Then you're on air. Then you talk to people. Then you can jam it down the globalists' throats instead of diddling and pouring and schmickle grooving and whatever you want to call it. It's just crazy. So crazy. It's coordination. And the globalists are coordinated. If we get coordinated and don't just talk on our phones or tweet or, sit there, like everybody's like talking constantly, but not actually coordinating. If we coordinate as free peoples and start realizing that we're in a war, we're going to win. If we don't, we're screwed. So that's it. Sometime, maybe, hey, 3 weeks from now, I'm going to air the TED News. You know how that sounds. And I'm going to air it on a Wednesday. And that's the way it's going to be now. All right, there you go. Thank you. Okay, anyways, getting back to what I was saying here, we have a Doug Hagman coming up with a whole ton of stuff to talk about and things to break down. And I've got a bunch of other news on the huge Russia situation that I haven't even hit yet. Just briefly, we've got the Body's Ultimate Turmeric Formula back in. It has a 95 rating on the curcumin scale. The average competitor has a 3%. Yes, it's basically something in it. And InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. It's now back in stock. Body's Ultimate Turmeric product is now back in. We have the best-selling product, Brain Force Plus, nootropic, for 50% off. So is the Real Red Pill. We have the Challenge Pack, where the two are together with 50% off and free shipping on top of that. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. Okay, I butchered this earlier myself, a big mistake I made. This is linked up on DrudgeReport.com if you're a radio listener and you want to see it. It's on the lower right-hand side. This is my son had the idea 2 nights ago to challenge Hogg to a debate, and here is my son's amazing breakdown. And I did not coach this. I did not. I gave him a few ideas, but and a few of my ideas are in there, but I'm really proud of my 15-year-old son. People don't believe he's 15. If you saw him in person, he's already bigger than I am. No, he's 15, and I'm really proud of him. So here is Rex Jones challenging George Soros' pitchman, David Hogg, to a debate.
Hello, Mr. Hogg. My name is Rex Jones, and I want to make a public statement about you claiming to speak for my generation about guns.
If you listen real close, you can hear the people in power shaking. They've gotten used to being protective of their position, chewing safety, the safety of inaction. Inaction is no longer safe, and to that we say, no more.
Hogg, you claim that the establishment is shaking in its boots in fear of you. No, they love you. They love gun control. They've wanted this for years.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
Here's the legislation that you supported in Georgia. The last assault weapons ban Democrats in your state pushed, and I'm quoting from the legislation right here. The Georgia Bureau of Investigations shall seize and take possession of any assault weapon, large capacity magazine, armor-piercer bullet, or incendiary 50 caliber bullet. Shall seize and take possession of.
It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
You've heard people say, you'll have to pry my gun from my cold dead hands. Okay.
It is admitted they want to disarm the American people, just as they have done with so many corrupt regimes in the past. Hitler, Stalin, Mao, North Korea. Do you think those corrupt leaders allowed their citizens to have guns? Do you think that the Jews were able to protect themselves when Hitler put them in concentration camps? No, they were disarmed, and that's why they were enslaved. Hogg, you're a public figure, and you call my dad a piece of SHI you-know-what, and you say all kinds of other horrible things. You've challenged him to a debate and then backed out of it. The fact is, you and your fellow students have been handpicked by the mainstream media to misrepresent the American people and make it look like the average young American teen wants to have their First and Second Amendment taken away. Many people in your name, such as CNN, have called for my father to be banned off YouTube and claim that it's bullying to say that it's authoritarianism to repeal the Second Amendment. Mainstream media uses you as a child human shield so that you can go out and make outrageous statements without anyone being allowed to rebut you without being labeled a bully. The truth is, Mr. Hogg, that George Soros and the groups funding your anti-gun march are a clear and present danger to this country and draw clear parallels to Nazi Germany and the authoritarian regimes of the past. Well, David Hogg, here we are. We're at the Peace Officers Memorial in downtown Austin. These brave men and women took an oath to uphold the Constitution. The sheriff in your state did too, but he didn't protect y'all. He stayed outside while the massacre happened. And you like to blame that on guns? I say we shouldn't blame that on guns. We should blame that on the sheriff that failed to act. But no, you make apologies for him. You said that going down a barrel of an AR-15 is dangerous, and you understood why he was scared. Going down the barrel of an AR-15 is that man's job. And for you to make apologies for him is absolutely disgusting. The veterans who died in the Revolutionary War and in the War of 1812, they died to protect this country from the British. They died to protect their civil rights in World War II and World War I. American soldiers went across the globe to protect our freedoms. You say that those freedoms are obsolete, that no one needs a weapon of war. Were you taught in school, David Hogg, about how our country was founded? Were you taught in school that at Lexington and Concord, the British came for our firearms and our weapons, and we said no? And we defended our country with all of our might and strength? And that's how we became the most free, the most prosperous, and the most successful nation on earth to the date? Do you know how that happened? Brave men and women, like the men and women behind me, stood up and they said, no, we will not submit to tyranny. And that is what you were doing. You were submitting to tyranny. You were begging to have the rights that our forefathers fought for stripped away. You say, yes, please take my rights. I say, no, you're not going to take my rights. Well, I'm 15 years old, Mr. Hogg, and I don't need talking points or a little teleprompter behind my CNN interview screen to get my point across. I'm backed up by statistics and facts. You are backed up by falsities and lies. Mr. Hogg, my dad publicly invited you to come on his show and debate him. You shied away and crawled back under your rock. I, Rex Jones, would like to publicly challenge you to debate me. Name the time, name the place, name the venue. I will do it.
18.
Just don't know what to say.
For me, 18 was about 12. Like Rex looks like he's about 16, 17, 18, 19. People don't believe he's 15, and he's a young 15. People thought I was like 20 when I was like 13. It's crazy. I'm not going to get into the stories. It's pretty ridiculous, but I'm going to stop right there. Anyways, if I ever write a memoir, though, it'll be pretty interesting because it'll all be true, but it'll all be unbelievable. But look at what we do currently. It's all unbelievable. Reality is unbelievable. We'll stop right there. Got a bunch of phone calls that I should go to. If we give the number out, that's always a good thing to do, take your phone calls. I haven't done that today, but I got a little bit better this week. We've taken calls the last 3 days. I've been taking calls today. Doug Hagman's coming up. I'm not here trying to like space the time out because it's already time for Doug Hagman to take over. The Russian news is so horrible that, you know, it's kind of like you're going to visit grandma and she's in a coma or they've already defibrillated her a couple times and she's probably going to die. And you kind of go back to your hotel room at night at the hospital and you kind of halfway hope you're not there when she dies, even though you love grandma. Except if we die, it's the whole planet. And so I'll admit it, I'm kind of a wimp. I look at the Russia situation and it's real. And I know who the globalists are and what their plans are and how they sold us out to the communist Chinese. And I just want to go to a sports bar and eat a chicken fried steak and get drunk. But I'm not going to do that. And then this happens. I get really mad at the left and the globalists and all them because they're the ones trying to overthrow the country and the family and God and the globalist Pope saying there is no hell and, you know, people shouldn't be Christians and we should. He said that. He said it makes him nauseous to hear about Europe's Christian roots. And it's like, wow, what would happen if they had a total globalist as the Pope? Well, there it is. That Drudge Report headline today, maybe it's still up. But then there's the good news. And I always get frustrated after I go off there because I meant to come in here today and lead the broadcast with my gut tells me, but also intellectually, Trump's the real deal. And he's not an instant gratification. He's not a dictator. And he's not perfect. But man, $30 billion loss from Amazon when that is an anti-American globalist company and they are screwing this nation over and they have get $1.48 every package nobody else gets. And they've got all these other tax incentives that Obama and Clinton set up. And if they want to fund the Washington Post, try to bring this country down, I say break their neck politically. And he's doing it. So it's true. The storm's here. Trump's going after him. And this is a hell of a time to be alive. We'll be back to play a clip of Trump with some huge Russia statements straight ahead. And then we're going to bring Doug Hagman in with all of his critical intel. Stay with us. All right, we had Ted Nugent on today. It was amazing. And the crew's done a great job. They had like 3-camera shoot, 2.5-hour shoot to put it together the last few weeks. And you know, we didn't get it encoded or uploaded this morning because I like to promote it on YouTube so everybody on the radio can spread it. And then we air clips on the show. But we're going to air that Monday. If the hair lips the Admiral and the water rises over Bear Creek, unless there's nuclear war with Russia, we're going to get that done. And I'm going to call Ted. He's excited to see it. He's going to tweet it out and Facebook it out and everything. And the great job of the crew. That's coming up Monday. So I apologize to folks. I didn't not air that to like get you as a cliffhanger and not do it. And it wasn't because we didn't have plenty of news to cover. We're going to have Doug Hagman take over. He's based in New Jersey and New York, broken a lot of critical news on Weiner and Epstein and all of it. And I want to get his take on something because you notice this happened. You got this devil-worshipping sex cult that Hillary's connected to in mainstream news and arrests being made. That's really scaring him right now. And they got linked in here, all these Democrats that were implicated are like, oh, we're not involved. But then you can go to their Twitter accounts. They all text message and all post on Twitter an image of this woman and just that's all they do. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? That is the head priestess of the U.S. Aleister Crowley cult, in her own words. So, you know, like gang members have their signs. We're not involved in the sex torture cult, but interestingly enough, the NXIVM member and actress Allison Mack tweeted out a photograph of the infamous spirit cooking artist, she calls it, she says it's actually her religion, but she calls it artist, Marina Abramovich in January, the same Abramovich who Clinton campaign manager John Podesta attended. And they're in the emails going, oh, my God, you hear, I got hit by a car. Don't worry, we'll do a ritual. Is there going to be enough blood and semen there? I mean, can you, these people have, quote, art displays where people simulate being dead in vats of blood and little kids come and get blood and go, and then weird men stand around and go, ooh. It's like, these are people that, let's just say this. We don't need running our life for our children, do we? So I'm going to stop right there. We're going to get Doug Hagman's take on that. But this just broke. We're coming out of Syria very soon. Let others take care of it, Trump. You know, I talked to Trump early last year, as in April, and I said, sir, they say we got boots on the ground. McMaster says we're going to invade. We're going to kick out. He goes, no, that's not true. I guarantee it's not going to happen. And then a week later, after I said that, it was word for word, Trump said that to the New York Times. So, I mean, that was a conversation we had. The media just flipped out and didn't know what to do. But I mean, the military's complex. I got 100 employees. I can't keep track of stuff. Can you imagine with millions of people under him and all the stuff's going on? So they keep trying to launch all this. And they bombed a bunch of Russians a few months ago, and the Russians didn't have a response. And then all this is going on. Well, the neocons want a wider war, but Trump says, no, thanks to the Russians, we're getting out of there. We've beaten ISIS. We're leaving. So we're coming out of Syria very soon. Let others take care of it. He tweeted that out. But here is also Trump in a video when he was talking about infrastructure today, saying it. So that's what his real policy, but he's in charge of this giant ship of state that's mutinous. So you got the Russians saying we're getting ready for war. NATO's moving troops in. The Australian newspaper, The Australian, gets it right and says Russia crisis hotter than the Cold War. This is the big problem. China has our infrastructure, our telecommunications codes. Apple's moving there. They're the ones up our, you know what? I mean, they are running the show. Trump is just some of the establishment's half-sane response to, really, we're going to turn it all over to the Chinese and ban free speech and everything? And, euthanize the veterans? That's what the Thomas Watson computers at IBM do that are over the VA. Trump's killed all that. The death list, all of it. And people are like, well, he ain't doing enough. I'm just going to shoot UN soldiers if I see them on the street. You'll never be called UN soldiers. They'll be through our government. So stop copping out. The war's now. Trump's for real. The enemy hates his guts. Let's get involved. Here's the president just an hour ago.
And by the way, we're knocking the hell out of ISIS. We'll be coming out of Syria like very soon. Let the other people take care of it now. Very soon. Very soon we're coming out. We're going to have 100% of the caliphate, as they call it, sometimes referred to as land. We're taking it all back quickly.
So, Doug Hagman, I'm going to have you take over. I appreciate you hosting the great work you do, my friend. What do you want to tackle first? I just want to ask you, I know you always have intel, and we just talk on here. This major sex cult leader busted, women in cages, branding. The Clintons are all involved, of course, all these other Democrats, senators, everything. And they go, oh, we're not involved, even though they're implicated. But then, as a calling card, when we criticized her a year and a half ago, remember, everyone tweeted, everybody, all the left would just put her picture out. Like, they think this woman will conquer America. They think this high priestess of admitted Aleister Crowley magic will crush us, my friend.
Yeah, and thanks, Alex. You know what? She's got the, I guess a better way to state that would be she's got the elixir that will empower the people behind the veils, of course, the power brokers, to provide them with the necessary spiritual, and I use that in air quotes, stuff to take them to new heights. And of course,
the adrenaline in the blood.
There you go. That elixir of that they call art or performance art, and we nailed it well over a year and a half ago, or however, 400 and nearly 500 days ago. This is day 494 of Donald Trump presidency. So you go back 30, 60 days prior to that, when we talked about the Wiener laptop, we talked about the everything that was taken from the devices in the Wiener/Abedin household. And people call us nuts for this, but this was revealed back then, where you've got people like Keith Raniere, who it's on your website now, do a great job in covering that, where you've got this Hollywood sex cult connected to Clinton. There it is. This is starting to come out, and this is no accident that it's coming out now.
Because they're doing Aleister Crowley sex magic.
Exactly, and your whole program today was stellar. But when you start looking at and start connecting the dots between the sexual, the sex cult, the child kidnappings, and of course, if you go back and check out what Craig Sawman said, and I'm in contact with him all the time, and you go back even further again to the when you and I had the discussion that was debunked and discredited. Of course, it was on the laptops and devices. You can see now where everything is connecting, where you've got child slave sex trafficking ongoing. Rolling Stone did a hit piece on me saying that I was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, basically. And of course, the left
enjoyed that.
And by the way,
it's all coming out, and shame on these people who aren't themselves involved in it. It's all coming out in the UK. It's all coming out here. How dare them attack us? It's not about us. It's about the children. This is going on. Aleister Crowley killed his own son.
Exactly, and you go back to the Crowley era, and you go back to that desert time, shall we say, and then move forward to Rosemary's Baby and beyond, and you can see the foundation that was being laid now to Marina Abramovic, or however you pronounce her last name, and how that is infiltrated and incestuously so all of the power circles in Washington as well as Hollywood and New York. So you've got this force multiplier, that being the spirit cooking and such taking place, and of course the politicians.
And really, isn't that just a way to compromise people?
Oh, look, Epstein rolls of videotape, as we used to say, but now the server's full of compromising pictures, documentation, and look what Raniere did to subjugate his sex slaves. He forced confessions out of them or obtained compromising photographs. So this is this is kind of a template for the power brokers, the deep state individuals. So we're the fantastic coverage on this, and so important because this is all connected to what we saw, 500 days ago plus 600 days ago. We told you this was coming. Now it's here.
And absolutely, and Trump's delivering. Well, you're going to take over right now. Doug Hagman, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Infowars.com, Newswars.com. He, of course, is Doug Hagman. He's got a whole bunch of great websites and organizations that he will tell you about, and we'll link when we come back after this break. Please stay with us in the War Room coming up.
Doug Hagman sitting in for Alex Jones. Doug Hagman from Hagman Report, HagmanReport.com, but most importantly right now sitting in for Alex. And a couple of stories right out of the gate, especially and including, I think, one of the most important stories that was referenced today, and of course is at Infowars.com, and that's the fact that the Hollywood sex cult of Keith Raniere, there have been warnings upon warnings upon warnings about this for years. That specific cult, NXIVM group, that was out of New York, Albany, and points east, and of course, then it transitioned into Hollywood, or to Hollywood, and caught up a number of actors, actresses specifically, and then from there, politicians, leaders, and you're looking at Keith Raniere, the co-founder of this controversial self-help group, this multi-level kind of obscure, oblique marketing group known as NXIVM, being arrested in Mexico for sex trafficking and forced labor conspiracy. Now, the only thing I can come out with and say about this is, didn't we tell you? Didn't we say this? Didn't we warn about this how many months ago? And of course, our warnings countered by such illuminous groups like Snopes.com and other places I won't even mention. And the hit pieces and the attacks that were launched out against us, Alex Jones, Infowars, Doug Hagman, and others, it was just ridiculous that this doesn't exist. The sex trafficking doesn't exist. Well, let me tell you something. You talk to people, you interview people such as Craig Sawman Sawyer and others who will say that children are the currency of the globalists and the Pedagate. It's all for real. And it's interesting how we can see when things like this happen, there's always the action and reaction. And there's always this blowback that we see. So we're seeing it with Mueller. We're seeing it with a number of, really across the board. Yeah, you go in, you expose the nefarious deeds of the globalists. They punch you back. Then you go back in and you double down, and they punch you back twice as hard. So this is what we're seeing. So just to kind of bring a wide lens out on this, what we're seeing and what we've been seeing since Donald Trump was put into office or elected into office is this constant fight, this constant exposure of the deeds of darkness that include the globalists, that include some of the people within our own government who traffic in children and engage in these sexual perversions. And again, we see this now coming out and being verified through the arrest of Keith Raniere. And complete in this article, and go to Infowars.com, please understand and read and research this for yourself, because this is not some sort of obscure conspiracy, theory, and the comma is intentional there. This is more of verification. This is more verification. And think back to what we had talked about. Go back to the Podesta emails. Do you remember those? Oh, yeah. When Podesta, obviously, in the email, his emails were phished, and of course were published at WikiLeaks. John Podesta invited to spirit cooking dinner, and then Marina Abramovic came in, and then you had a whole slew of citizen investigators and researchers talking and exposing these deeds. And then Tony Podesta, the interesting art. Now, it might be of questionable taste to have art that is displayed in one's home, specifically, and that was seen in Tony Podesta's home. I suppose there's nothing illegal about that, but definitely questionable in terms of their taste. But at the end of the day, what does this all mean? I often talk about the information that we've collected over the months and over the years. If you look at if you would consider this to be a courtroom case, consider walking in, for example, with a rope from a boat launch, we'll say from a boat, those really thick ropes. And did you ever take a good look at the end of the rope? It's really a cluster of multiple fibers. And each strand of that rope is a piece of evidence, circumstantial perhaps, but nonetheless evidence. So one strand by itself, it's not going to hold a boat and it's not going to really do much. Two strands, it makes it a little bit stronger. The case, a little bit stronger. 5 strands, and multiply that until you have a sizable rope that will hold your craft, your boat. And that, of course, is the court case or the evidence. So it's easy for the globalists. It's easy for the progressive fascists, the liberal fascists on the left to say, you know what, this is a bunch of conspiracy theory nonsense. Remember Pedagate that and others named like that. That's all conspiracy. Wait a second. When you look at one strand, you can say that. When you have 2 strands, not so much. And multiple strands that make the entire rope, it's very difficult to break that rope. And that's what we're dealing with here. The multiple strands all together making the case against people such as the individual that was arrested, Keith Raniere, and how deeply they are entrenched. Now, of course, the response here with respect to Raniere, the Hollywood sex cult connected to Clintons and the Democrats, they'll say, wait a minute, he was just merely a supporter. And that's going to be their comeback. And as a matter of fact, it already is. He just merely supported our campaign. We have nothing to do with them. That sounds good at its face, but deeper research will indicate otherwise. When you start looking at the communications, again, another strand of that bigger rope, and add the strands one by one by one, so you're able to take that big rope that'll hold the boat to the dock into the courtroom and say, here you go. Here is the collection of evidence. So here's the bottom line in this. And this is as much as I'm going to spend talking about this sex cult. Here's the bottom line. The number of arrests for pedophilia, pedophile, human trafficking, sex trafficking in young girls, as distasteful as this is. By the way, I've got so many conservatives and so many conservative Christians saying, oh, I don't really want to talk about this. It disturbs me. Well, it should disturb you. It most certainly should disturb you, but we have to talk about it because it is real. And the bottom line is the fight, the exposure, how we are winning this war against these perverse globalists that deal in children as sex objects, and of course the currency for the globalists. How we are winning this is through exposure, and of course the more that we expose their crimes, the more they will dig and run away and run in. We are catching up to them. Keith Raniere now is going to be extradited to the Eastern District of New York for trial, I believe it is. I believe the extradition is already in progress. If not, it will be shortly. So this is going to break, and believe me, these people will talk. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying people that are put in that position, they will talk, and they will start to talk on others. So what you expected a year and a half or 13, 14 months ago, hey, when's this coming out? Well, you're watching it, and we told you. InfoWars told you, and Doug Hagman told you, Alex Jones told you, and Sam Mansour told you, and others told you. So this is just to say, we are winning. InfoWars, Doug Hagman sitting in for Alex Jones. We're going to be right back after this segment. Stay with us. Doug Hagman sitting in for Alex Jones, Infowars.com, where there is, in fact, a war for your mind, but we're winning that war. And I wanted to mention something I was listening to during the break. Folks, go to InfoWarsStore.com and get a hold of Brain Force and also the Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge Pack. I'll tell you what, here's the thing. We need to fund this operation. We need to get behind InfoWars. You've always got to have a point person out there. But look, wars cost money. We're fighting a war for the American people, for our nation. Folks, go to InfoWarsStore.com. infowars.store.com and grab yourself a bottle of Brain Force Plus, the Real Red Pill Mind and Body Challenge. You've got just a wonderful product in their air purifier. That's Alexa Pure Breeze Air Purifier right now. Body Armor, of course, at InfoWars Store, the best protection for less. I could go on and on and on, but here is the bottom line with this. And again, I don't get paid to say any of this. These are things that will help you. It'll help us. It'll help fund the operation. And what's the operation? The operation is fighting the globalists, fighting the people who are fighting the left, I suppose, if you're thinking, well, who are the globalists? Well, it's the progressive left. You're the people who are attempting to take away the Second Amendment rights of Americans and the First Amendment rights of Americans. And I do hope that you paid attention during the show, because there was a lot of good conversation with respect to the tactics of the left, the progressive left. We are in the crosshairs. Alex Jones is in the crosshairs. We're in the crosshairs of these leftist, progressive, liberal, fascists, and they're not just coming for our guns. They're coming for us. This is an extermination type of an event taking place right now. And if you didn't catch this earlier, I was talking with my friend Steve Quayle earlier today. Steve was on with David Knight this morning on InfoWars. And they were talking about transhumanism and a number of other things. This is what Steve Quayle and Alex Jones were talking about years ago, and they were laughed at. Now it's coming to pass. So definitely catch Steve Quayle on with David Knight from this morning. The reason I mention this is all of these dots connect. All of these puzzle pieces fit together. The last segment I talked about the rope. I talked about a rope being really actually a bunch of strands connected together, and the stronger the more strands you have, the stronger the rope is. And you could consider each strand a bit of evidence, whether it's circumstantial, direct, or whatever kind of evidence. And at the end of the day, how big that rope is will tell you how big of a case you've got. Now, every rope I've seen, and I use that metaphorically, of course, from the InfoWars reporting, from the reporters, from Owen Schroyer, David Knight, and everyone else, every single rope I've seen brought to the courtroom, and the courtroom, of course, would be you and you're the jury, has been really strong. And so I said all that just to say this. The war we are fighting is real. Now, the focus of this segment here is to connect some dots on what's happening in the larger sense. And I don't think Alex would necessarily be forthcoming about this or talk to you about this, but you've got no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And Alex doesn't say much because that's the way he is. He doesn't say much. You've got no idea the attacks that are taking place behind the scenes. And it's not just against Alex Jones, and it's not just against us. It's against everybody in the alternative new media, the honest media. And the reason I bring this up is never in the history of this country, at least in modern times, has there been a time when we've been this close to a civil war brewing, or a revolution, or a combination of a revolution and a civil war. Regardless, it is really at our doorstep. And the attacks now are coming in with ferocity. And the attacks against Alex Jones are coming in with ferocity. Against us, with they're vicious and they're vile attacks. But see, here's the key to this. We are fighting back. And this is why I mentioned at the beginning of the segment, go to InfoWars Store, you buy the products, support the operation, because without your support, none of this is going to happen. And I wanted to start out the segment earlier just by saying that you, the listener, the viewer of InfoWars, Infowars.com, you are a participant in this war, whether you know it or not, whether you want to be in it or not. And you know this, but it's good to reiterate this just to remind ourselves where we're at. There's no more sitting back and being a spectator. What we're in right now is no longer has any spectators. If you are silent, then your silence will tell which side you're on. It is your silence that will define your future. And I hope and pray that you will not be silent in the face of the attacks that we face, because it will be you next time. All of the legal attacks, the censorship, the conservatives, the Christian conservatives posting on Twitter, Facebook, that are being banned. That's only just a sliver of the attacks. What the left, what the progressive fascist left, what they are doing today in the larger sense is they're opening up multiple battlefronts. On one front, you've got the censorship. So you can't fight back and say, I didn't say that. For example, well, numerous examples with Alex Jones and InfoWars, people making fun of or misquoting what Alex Jones says, misquoting what I say. We never said that. But you can't fight back. So they take away your ability to fight back. Now they're coming, that's the First Amendment. Now, of course, they open another front with respect to the Second Amendment. And shame on the globalists, shame on you punks that are using children as pawns in your sick, perverse political game to rid this country of the Second Amendment. Shame on you. You're nothing, and I mean this, you're nothing, and these are my words, you're nothing but punks when you take young people, children, and exploit them for your own perverse purposes. That is to change the Constitution, to attack the Second Amendment. This is what's taking place here. But that's just one other front. And then you've got another front. As I said, Alex will never really talk about this because I know what goes on behind the scenes. I've seen this. Steve Quayle knows what's going on behind the scenes. He sees this. We're part of this, where you've got attack after attack. They come after your sponsors. They go after your platforms. They go after your ISPs. They go after everybody. And this is, again, just to quote Alex, this is not a complaint. This is an observation. So why did I bring all this up? Because we're in a war, as you hear. But one thing Alex doesn't really tell you, because we don't want to be the story. We're not the story. We don't want to be the story. But the fact is this: you can be the story. You will be the story, because it will happen to you. If it can happen to Alex or Milo or Tommy or whoever, it can happen to you. So you've got to have somebody to fight for you. You've got to have somebody that's running point for you. And the other part of this is, we are, at least, and these are my words again, we can no longer play by their rules, nor will we accept their rules, especially when they have no rules, or the rules that they have turned into this set of prison bars as opposed to rules. No, we're not going to be silenced. We're not going to be gagged. And we're not running an offensive game, not a defensive game, but an offensive game. And that, by the way, is what Donald Trump has been doing, in my view, and the information I've been getting as well. I've got my sources. Alice has got his. There's an offensive game going on, but it's not the kind of game that you think it is. It's a different kind of game. He's broken the rules. He stepped out of the normal presidential statesman arena, because these are street fighters that we're fighting. And if we don't fight like street fighters, we're going to lose. And I'm not saying break any laws. That's not what I'm not advocating violence. I'm just making an observation and saying, as Alex said earlier, the worm has turned. We've got them on the run. And it's because of operations, again, like InfoWars, and to keep it going, and go to InfoWarsStore.com. I want to drive that home, because I don't get paid for this. I get money for this. But that's a reality, because operations like this cost money. This is not a fundraiser. This is just plain old simple, plain talk from Doug Hagman. So, InfoWarsStore.com, get the products, make yourself healthy, get get prepared for the battle, because the battle is upon us. You're listening to InfoWars, InfoWars.com, Doug Hagman, up against the break, and be right back. Don't you go anywhere. And this is Doug Hagman sitting in for Alex Jones. InfoWars, InfoWars.com. It's a place to be. It's a place to go. It's a necessary prep for every day. Just go to InfoWars.com. Get your news there. Stay away from these CNNs, MSNBCs. Obviously, you know that. Even some of the just go to InfoWars.com for your news information. Also, HagmanReport.com. That's my home base. HagmanReport.com. 2 N's on Hagman, by the way. That, of course, for anybody out there for service of process, go ahead. Doug Hagman, 2 N's on Hagman. I'm kidding. You know, we talk about a war taking place, but let's drill down a little bit more. We've got right now, we're looking at, and this is on InfoWars right now, you're looking at red alert, Russia crisis hotter than the Cold War. You've got that breaking. You've got the geopolitical situation really teetering on edge. Now think about this. If Hillary Clinton would be in office, I don't know, would we be cleaning up in our biohazard suits after an already Third World War? I don't know. Fourth World War? I don't know. But the fact is this, the story of Russian collusion, the fact that, of course, you heard yesterday, Mueller, his antics with respect to now on the domestic front, his antics with respect to even some people who come on InfoWars and detaining them and questioning them for Russian ties. What in the world is going on with this? And if you're not paying attention to this, you need to. Because and I found some really disturbing evidence with respect to the Mueller probe, and this is kind of my specialty. I'm looking at this from the domestic and the geopolitics, of course, that all fits in, but drilling down here on the domestic front, the Mueller investigation against Donald Trump. Think about this. Now, I don't like to read, and I'm not going to read. I'm just going to paraphrase here. I got a great interview last night with Diana West, and she's author of a book called American Betrayal. And she talks about how this country, America, has been infiltrated by the Soviet Russian communists, basically since World War II, and how the power of how the various departments, including and especially the Department of State, has been infiltrated. Now, consider what we're seeing today. You've got accusations against President Donald Trump of Russian collusion. And of course, the special counsel evolved from those accusations, ostensibly. And I use the word ostensibly because it's really not what happened. That's just the legalization of a spying entrapment ring against Donald Trump, a coup attempt against Donald Trump that's still going on today. Roger Stone talks about this. Jerome Corsi talks about this. Alex talks about this. And I talk about this. But I'm going to give you some information I don't think you've had anywhere else except for Diana West. There she is on the screen, a great woman. Listen, by the way, American Betrayal, a fantastic book. It gives you some great foundational information for what is happening today. But just citing from that, evidence in her work, evidence already indicates that a subversive effort was mounted from inside the U.S. government and from external forces outside by the deep state under Barack Obama. And from the campaign that included the Hillary Clinton campaign and the minions such as John Brennan, the Muslim CIA director. Yes, I said Muslim CIA director. When you start putting, again, look at the rope. A lot of strands, a lot of information, a lot of circumstantial evidence. And that rope is pretty thick on Brennan. And you get Comey and others. They are the pawns of the deep state globalists. The question becomes, is all of what we're seeing today, is it really all about merely politics? In other words, just to get Hillary Clinton into the White House? Is that what this is all about? Or is there something more? I would submit there's something more. And allow me to bring to you, the jury, a piece of evidence that, again, was cited by Diana West or cultivated by Diana West that I think speaks volumes about what we're seeing today. When you look at the people involved in the Mueller witch hunt, and you look at the infrastructure that was created during the campaign or during the coup, the infrastructure of the coup against Donald Trump, you see some things that will or should surprise you. One of them being the wife of number 4 at Department of Justice, at Main Justice. And you know who I'm speaking about, Nellie Ohr, this mystery woman of intrigue, Nellie Ohr. Let's take a closer look at Nellie Ohr for the remainder of this segment, because this is key. Nellie Ohr, it was determined. Now, you might remember that, again, as wife of Bruce Ohr, number 4 at Department of Justice. She's the woman that just attempted she got a ham radio license, all right? And that is a well-known counter surveillance technique. If you want to get out of the normal, if you don't want your discussions to be caught up by the NSA, get yourself a ham radio license. That'll do it. That's the ticket. Well, that's exactly what she did. But it's interesting that when you look at the coup plotters, and there's, by the way, Conservative Treehouse, fantastic. If you look on the screen, a lot of work done by Sundance, extremely intricate work. And when you start connecting the dots, and you start connecting putting together the puzzle pieces on these coup plotters, you'll find out that Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson, himself a journalist previous, his wife Mary Jacoby, and Bruce and Nellie Ohr, you'll find some common factors that predate the coup. As a matter of fact, they all served on a group. It was a think tank back in 2010. They all served on a think tank. It was an expert working group on I'll just say it has some communist ties, or at least not the think tank group, but the topics had some communist implications there. But it's interesting in this striking double omission when you look at the Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson in both his Senate and House interviews. One thing he failed to mention was the name of one of his key Russian-speaking hires who was working on the anti-Trump project for the DNC and Clinton campaign. That's Nellie Ohr. Again, the wife of Bruce Ohr. Why am I focusing in on her? Because no one's talking about her, at least not to the extent that they should. Nellie Ohr, as stated by Diana West, is the woman in the middle, not least because her husband is former senior DOJ official Bruce Ohr, who was demoted right before the Fox News disclosed his secret meetings with both his wife's boss, Simpson, and one of Fusion's other Russian experts, Christopher Steele. I would contend that everything I've seen, the 35-page dossier, who really wrote that? It's attributed to Christopher Steele, based on my sources. This is key information here. And also basically verified by Jack Cashel, who I've had endless discussions with and who's been in my studio. Jack Cashel, an award-winning author. I would contend that this Russian dossier, 35-page dossier, was authored by someone other than, whose first language was not the English language. Enter Nellie Ohr. I would also assert, given all of the information, that Nellie Ohr was part of the authorship of that 35-page dossier. In addition, you have Nellie Ohr being a pro-Stalin apologist. When you look at her senior thesis, when you look at her writings, and they're very, very hard to find, but you'll find out that she is, or based on her writings, that she's a pro-Stalin apologist. This is the wife of the former number 4 guy at the Department of Justice, Maine. Think about these implications. And go back to my original statement. Was this all about getting Hillary Clinton elected? Yeah, I think a large part of it was. But the ideology behind this, the war that we are fighting, is rooted in this Soviet/communist agenda. I would urge everyone, given the time here, I'm running out of time, I would urge everyone to research the writings and the positions of Nellie Ohr and connect the dots between Nellie Ohr and Glenn Simpson and Christopher Steele and Mueller. And look at the intricacies between Mueller and the war that he has waged, the coup that he is currently waging against Donald Trump, and everything will be revealed, and you will come out with not just a rope, but a huge rope that could be used by a tugboat. At the end of the day, the fight that we are fighting, and the pawns that have constructed this surveillance apparatus and have used it as a weaponized operation of the coup against this nation, against Donald Trump, and have opened up the fronts that include, but are not limited to, the anti-Second Amendment protests, the marches, the hogwash that we see out there, all of it. And the attacks against the First Amendment, the censorship, all of this is combined. Mueller is just one segment, one part of the battle. And it's against Donald Trump, but more importantly, it's against each and every one of you, which is why I say support InfoWars. Go to InfoWarsStore.com. Get boned up, get physically fit, get the brain force, get bodies, get all of the products, support this operation and help yourself while you're at it. Okay. Saying thank you so much for putting up with me. As I said, in for Alex, InfoWars, God bless.